Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends, wherever you are in the world. My name is Ryan G, and I'm the Head of Strategy and Development here at Future Travel Experience. And I'm delighted to be moderating proceedings for this FTEAPEX virtual event, which will focus on ancillary revenue innovation. Today's virtual event is very kindly sponsored by Plusgrade, Flightpath 3D, and Car Trawler, as well as the FTEAPEX Asia Expo and FTE Global events, the latter of which will include our ancillary conference, which was originally scheduled to take place at our Dublin event, which would have been taking place this week if it wasn't for COVID-19. We've had a really fantastic response to today's virtual event, with more than 700 executives registered, including representatives from more than 100 airlines and more than 70 different airport operators. Now, as is tradition with our virtual events, we are broadcasting completely live with contributions from all over the world. So we're really pushing the technology to its limits today. And with this in mind, please do bear with us if we encounter the odd technical hiccup, or if you find that you need to refresh your page every now and then to keep up with the live broadcast. And just a reminder that we will be sharing a full recording of this broadcast in the coming days, so you'll be able to watch everything back. So, to tell us a little bit more about what we have in store for you today, I would like to hand over to the founder and CEO of Future Travel Experience, Daniel Coleman.
Welcome everyone. It's great to be back with you all again this week. As Ryan mentioned, the world's ancillary community was set to join us in Dublin this week to learn from their peers and meet the most pioneering vendors in the ancillary revenue world. But when we realised meeting face-to-face was going to be impossible, we quickly decided to stage this virtual event, as there has never been a better time to connect online, to learn and share, to ensure commercial approaches are tweaked and optimised for the bounce back, which is very much on the horizon now. The high level of attendance today is great, and we will bring you a combination of insights and ideas from pioneering vendors and leading industry executives, including the CEO of Spirit Airlines and every single member of our FTE Ancillary Advisory Board, which includes senior representatives from Virgin Atlantic, EasyJet, American Airlines, Cebu Pacific, Jetstar, and Heathrow Airports, who will all share their experiences and ideas for the future. There'll be plenty of engagement between our participants today through the chat and attendee messaging features, plus plenty of Q&A. You can submit your questions and chat amongst yourselves throughout using the text boxes on your screen below this video stream, and I'll be monitoring questions personally to put the best ones forward to our speakers when time allows. Now, the majority of interviews today will be conducted by a good friend to FTE, Sinead Finn, owner of Affinity. Sinead established herself in this industry, leading the commercial efforts for Ryanair when it became a household name and delivered incredible growth year on year. She has vast experience and knowledge of the commercial realm and did an outstanding job moderating last year's FTA Ancillary Conference in Istanbul, and we wanted to invite her back to do the same today virtually. For now, though, I'd like to hand back over to Ryan.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So it's time to get going. And first up, we are going to hear an airline CEO perspective from Ted Christie, who is the president and CEO at Spirit Airlines. Now, Spirit is renowned as one of the world's best airlines when it comes to ancillary revenue performance. And Ted very kindly agreed to speak for us once again after joining us for our recent airline and aircraft virtual event just a couple of weeks ago. And asking the questions for us is Joe Leader, the CEO of APEX and IFSA, who's based over in Atlanta. So let's head over to Joe and Ted to hear all about how Spirit Airlines plans to adapt its ancillary strategy for the post-COVID-19 world.
I'm extremely happy to be with Ted Christie again, the president and CEO of Spirit Airlines, talking today about ancillary revenue. Ted, you're my new favorite person.
Gee, thanks, Joe. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I really appreciate you spending time on a very important subject, because Spirit is viewed as the worldwide leader in ancillary revenue. And what would you say are your secrets?
Well, we can't give you all our secrets. I love talking about ancillary revenue, not necessarily just because of the revenue component. Obviously, we have a business to run, and so we're always looking at that component of it. But the product that we've designed is intentionally done so to attract a certain consumer. And we know based on survey data and the attraction that our product has, the load factors we see, that people like having the options. They like being able to pick things that mean more to them. And so ancillary is code for I can actually build my own travel experience. And maybe I don't need 4 bags on this particular trip. I only need 1, and that's going to save me a little bit of extra money. But with that money, I'd like to upgrade into a slightly larger seat. And, I might like to take, an additional family member with me or something like that. And gosh, if I join your loyalty program, I save a ton by doing all of that as well. And so, the revenue is important. As I said earlier, it's critical to running a successful business. But I think designing the product is the really fun part for the marketing team as they think about, how do we attract a certain consumer base.
That's a great capture. So let me go into my questions. One of Spirit's greatest strengths has been its ability to sell lower price tickets with the bear fare and get approximately 50% of its revenue from ancillary fees. Has that strength of Spirit's strong ancillary revenue model continued against the headwinds of the current aviation environment, or has it changed a bit?
Well, I think in the near term, it is disrupted, much like the entire pricing marketplace, the total capacity deployed to them. All of that is kind of upside. It's a little topsy-turvy right now as airlines have made adjustments. But our view about the model going into the recovery and into the longer term, we're even more encouraged about the model we've designed heading into that, because we know a number of things about the guests that fly on Spirit and, broadly speaking, the travel populace, and they love low fares and they love the ability to customize, and our product is going to allow them that ability. People are smart. They shop based on total price and they look at their experience based on what it is they expect to do. And so when you factor in the various components of our product, be it different bag components or seating components, whatever those things are, you're still saving a considerable amount of money versus your next best option. And the reason we're able to do that is because we have low costs. So we still believe in the model. We still think that traction will be there as we head into the recovery. Right now, it's a little odd because, we have different markets and we're flying a little bit lower load factors and that sort of thing. But I don't think that changes the overall view about what people want when they're flying on Spirit, which is low fares and the ability to pick and choose.
Well, that ability to pick and choose is quite unique, because as a customer on Spirit, I've been surprised in a few positive ways. For example, when I was buying my last ticket on Spirit, I quickly realized that it saved me more money to join Spirit's $9 fare club that pays for itself. In this instance, it paid for itself after only 1 flight. And in the booking process, I quickly was realizing that I could get a better value, more for less, if I purchased a package for myself. And it was a funny feeling, because during booking, I feel like I'm getting more of a bargain while I'm actually bundling these ancillary fees. So my question to you with all that, Ted, is how does your team build such a strong package offering, encouraging people to get more for less and really to feel good about their decisions in adding?
Well, there's the truth of the matter is, and this is like, product sale and marketing 101, we're listening to what people want. We're actively surveying people about what products they want to see. We're responding to that and making it easier to convert on the types of, to your point, bundles or packages that make the most sense for each individual, because everyone's got a different view about what their optimal travel experience is going to be. And so being able to dynamically assemble those bundles based on your shopping experience and then price it in a way that makes it attractive to you is what our team has been focused on. And I think we're starting to deliver on that. And like you said, what we're finding is the satisfaction around those bundles is at an all-time high. People really like what they're seeing out of that and getting out of that. And so it's a neat counterpoint to the unbundled product that we're offering people the option to build your own experience, or we have this prepackaged, somewhat customized look for you right now and at this price point, and that's just easier for some people to buy, and they really like that. So I think, again, it's a hidden benefit of having this unbundled strategy is that we can use that in ways to lure people to buy these products and make them feel good about it.
Now, I'm curious because a flyer like myself, when you look at ancillary revenue, I might like to pay more for a big front seat than someone else. Have you done individualized pricing, or are you keeping it kind of very democratic thus far?
Yeah, so the way we optimize, it's not dissimilar from the way you would revenue manage the cabin from a ticket perspective. So as things fill up, that means demand in that product segment is going up, whatever that might be.
Yes.
And so this is economics. This is testing elasticity, and so each product has a different type of elasticity. To be honest, bags may behave a certain way, and the aisle seat may behave a certain way, and the big front seat may behave a certain way, and the science here is our revenue management department is understanding all of those different nuances so that we're meeting that clearing price for that individual buyer in the best possible way. So coupling all those things together, by the way, still leads you to a very affordable answer. And because our marketplace is so transparent these days, it's not very hard to shop any product out there in the marketplace. We know that we're giving our guests the best possible return because they're coming back for more, and we know that we're giving them affordable prices.
That's great. I love the approach. I think it's a great answer when it's not going to be a special price for this one individual because of individual price elasticity, but rather looking at the entire marketplace and how people behave. On the ancillary revenue front, Ted, I love the recent article in the Wall Street Journal where Scott McCarthy pointed to Spirit's middle seat, in his column, The Middle Seat. He pointed to it with extra room as the ideal give to travelers. It's an article that made the middle seat sound as desirable as the window or aisle. How have your customers received the improved seats on the aircraft, and are they willing to pay a price premium finally for the middle seat?
Well, yeah, we were really pleased by that article too, and saw how we climbed in the rankings as well as to how Scott viewed us. But what you're referring to is, as part of our new cabin and the redesign that we launched with you last year, one of the things we did amongst enhancing the comfort of the seat and the pre-recline and the tray table was we made the middle seat a little bit wider. Normally the middle seat has been historically viewed as kind of like that dreaded seat on board an airplane. And so giving that a little bit more comfort, I think, was intended to create a product that people could feel a little bit better about being in the middle, right? What we found in starting to survey people that are on those types of airplanes is, and kind of surprisingly so, is that additional comfort has made it somewhat agnostic as it relates to satisfaction across the aisle seat, the middle seat, and the window seat. It used to be, if you surveyed any airline customer, they would always rate the middle seat lower than you would the aisle or the window. What we found now on these new seating configurations on our new onboard product is that we've kind of stabilized that across all three seats, which now does give us the option to look at perhaps how can we best translate that into a product, and so it's a really positive sign, and I think one that has pleasantly surprised the onboard team and the marketing team, that we're starting to see that level of neutrality across all three seats.
That's great. And what is the deployment thus far for the new seats? Are you well underway?
So every new airplane obviously started coming with that when you and I were together at the end of last year, and I think we're into the 20s or so or more of that. And then we have a retrofit program that we're still underway on. A lot of discretionary capital right now in this crisis is a little bit on pause, but that's still a plan that we have because there's a tremendous payback both from a cost perspective. These seats are lower weight than the earlier generation seats, so there's a cost benefit, and like I said, there's this brand pickup and potential revenue pickup associated with the comfort and the product on board with the middle seat.
Well, it's great because with, the only silver lining from the dark COVID-19 cloud is as demand continues to pick up, then you can say, you know what, we should go ahead and move forward with these seats because they effectively pay them for themselves with full aircraft utilization in just a period of months, if I'm correct.
Yeah, they're very because of the weight issue you're referring to. It's a nice classic payback cap return type analysis for your finance department to run. So we're excited about that longer term. We love the look and feel of the cabin too, and we've had such great feedback from our guests and our team members. I mean, our flight attendants are among the best in the industry anyway, and they're just so proud of what's happened with Spirit over the last 3 or 4 years. And now we've got this visual representation that's much more consistent with our brand. So a really good move in the right direction.
Ted, thank you so much for taking all the time today. As you know, with Florida opened back up and with the recovery in the wake of COVID-19 underway, I'm really looking forward to getting down to Fort Lauderdale again. My parents are in your backyard, so I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks again, Joe, and it's great to see you, and we're looking forward to having you in here as soon as possible.
Thanks, my friend. Be safe.
Thank you very much, Joe and Ted. That interview was the perfect scene setter for today's Ancillary virtual event. Now, Joe, I would like to stick with you for a moment because the first of our vendor pitches today will be delivered by Pramod Jain, COO of Plusgrade. Now, Plusgrade is a company that is a member of FTEAPEX, so perhaps you would like to give them a fitting introduction.
Absolutely, Ryan. Today, it's my honor to introduce Plusgrade, not only as an FTEAPEX member, but really as an incredible company with a very innovative solution. They already work with dozens of our airlines worldwide and were recently featured by our FTEAPEX media team. With COVID-19, Plusgrade took the initiative to release new products that will help our airlines fight back against COVID-19. Really, it's about inspiring passenger dreams and loyalty. My favorite new Plusgrade solution is one that allows travelers to invest in their dreams. So imagine getting a certificate for traveling next year that's worth $500 that only costs you today $300. 6 months from now, it's worth $400, and just over a year from now, it's worth $500. It's a great solution to get travelers to take their dreams, invest in the future, and really get a great return on their investment, unlike they can in any other way. It's almost like savings bonds for our airlines in terms of future travel planning. For the details on this and so much more, it's my greatest honor to introduce Plusgrade CEO, Pramod Jain. Pramod?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Before I talk about some of the innovative recovery solutions around ancillary revenue, which we all know is a very high margin and much needed revenue right now, I want to give a quick introduction to Plusgrade. Plusgrade now is in 11th year of inception. It's built around maximizing the revenue for the travel industry with its industry-leading solutions around upgrade and merchandising platform. The idea really is to generate millions of smiles and billions of dollars, which is very well proven by the numbers listed below till date. If you look at it, we have 7 million plus passengers upgraded, $5 billion of revenue opportunity created, 1/4 of available seat kilometers, the ASKs, are powered by Plusgrade platform, and 70 plus partners with airlines and cruise partners are using Plusgrade technology. If you look at the map, this clearly shows our global presence across the air and the cruise industry. Our intense customer base is the core of our business model, which otherwise would be just another SaaS company. We enter a partnership with our customers because we understand if they're happy and successful, and so are we. We want to have equal skin in the game to win together. With 65 plus global airlines, we have built this great community that has the right mix across the size, geography, and business models, which helps drive and establish the best practices and product evolution. And the way the platform works is to really provide a fully branded portal with a turnkey solution where passengers are offered the ability to bid for upgrades, perform real-time bidding, offer fixed price instant upgrades across airlines, alliances, codeshare partners, interline partners, pay with points, and much more. But today I would like to introduce two key recovery initiatives. As Joe mentioned, the team at PlusGrade has created to accelerate the recovery of the global airline and travel industry, Travel Again and Dynamic Seat Blocker. As we know, many headlines are projecting that the recovery post-COVID may take years. And while we hope for the best, we ask ourselves to find a solution built on our technology that helps compress the timeline and accelerate the road to recovery. As step one, late April, early May, we launched Travel Again. Our goal again is very simple. Move rapidly to provide valuable tools to accelerate the airline recovery, counter the cash impact they're experiencing, and give the community of global travelers something to remind them that we are all connected and inspire them to travel again sooner. This program allows the travelers, individuals, corporations to purchase a travel certificate today that grows in value over time. It's a custom branded white label solution offered at no cost whatsoever to the airline. Now, as the industry moves through this time, a second initiative that fits right now from a current time perspective is around Dynamic Seat Blocker. Dynamic Seat Blocker is the simplest way for the airlines to drive incremental revenue, capitalize on the changing travel economy, and offer in-flight innovation by adding a new type of enhanced seating option for additional comfort and space. Despite the debate that's been taking storm in our space around blocking the middle seat, in research by pros done a month ago, 65% more than that of people would pay to have someone sitting next to them. But what we believe is this needs to be about choice. We need to think about both sides of the equation. We want to look at airlines' economic viability as well as passengers' choice and flexibility. It should be a choice and not a mandate, empowering passengers to choose their desired distance and make them as an individual feel safe. The technology needs to be at the forefront of the recovery. So the Dynamic Seat Blocker will predict the passenger ancillary revenue offering by passenger profile, could be the persona, route, day of travel, load factor, and fare class configuration, among other factors. Basically, looking at where to offer, when to offer, and how to offer. And if you think about it, how many times, even pre-COVID, you have wished as a traveler that no one sits next to you? As people walk down the aisle and your thinking is, please don't sit here. And as they pass, you let out a sigh of relief. This is what you're giving to your passengers, ability to get lucky every time. For you, it's drive incremental revenue from the unsold inventory. B, deliver innovation, peace of mind, and choice to passengers. C, develop more robust maximization as the revenue program. Our partners that are live with this product pre-COVID have seen 30% increase in revenue when they added Dynamic Seat Blocker to their upgrade programs. We believe that with technology at the heart, you can give passengers the choice of how they want to fly to make them feel safe today and into the future. Once again, we at PlusGrade are committed to continue drive the revenue maximization for the airlines, as well as provide your customers, the passengers, an upgraded travel experience. There's no doubt in my mind that our industry will rebound. It absolutely will. It's a question of when. So my call to action for all of us as technology providers over here is to be at the forefront of the industry acceleration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Pramod. A fantastic presentation to kick things off in terms of our supplier presentations and really forward-thinking products there. And we have about 30 seconds for a very quick question if you have time. So airlines at the moment, of course, are really focused on immediate return on investment. So if you were to work with an airline, if an airline was to decide to implement some of these products immediately, tomorrow or next week, how immediate would the results be in terms of them seeing that return on investment?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. And like I mentioned, it's a turnkey solution. So depending on the airline complexity business models, we're really looking at weeks. We're looking at 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks maximum. Travel Again, 4 weeks, even less than that. Dynamic Seat Blocker, 8 weeks and 12 weeks. So the timing is the key, and we are really focused on making sure that we get this up and running as quickly as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you once again, Pramod, and thank you to PlusGrade for taking part in today's virtual event.
Thank you for having me.
So now I would like to pass over to Sinead Finn for the first of her exclusive live interviews today. Firstly, Sinead will be interviewing Juha Jarvanen, the Chief Commercial Officer at Virgin Atlantic, who is also the President of the Board at FTEAPEX. So welcome, Sinead. Our audience is all yours.
Thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you, Daniel, for your fantastic introduction earlier. It's super to be here this afternoon. I'd like to say hello to the audience, and I hope you're all well. And with that, Juha, are you there?
Yes, hi Sinead. Good afternoon from London.
Good afternoon, back from London. Great to see you. So, Juha, just seen in the news, your CEO has said that you're back in the air on the 20th of July. And I just want to understand, is there a renewed sense of purpose to be ready for the customers now once the restrictions are lifted, and how you're all feeling about this?
Yes, thanks, Sinead. It's extraordinary times, I have to say. The industry has, well, the whole world has never gone through similar phase past few months that we've experienced, and it's been extremely difficult for all the airlines to plan going forward, and it's still difficult due to the fact that we are unsure how the travel restrictions will develop. But we decided proactively now to restart our operations on the 20th of July. We stopped in late April. So it's exciting for us to be back in the skies. We're launching 5 routes in late July and then opening incremental routes in August. But it's difficult to forecast and plan, and that really has been the underlying challenge for all of us. How do we forecast the right timing to return, and also what the demand will be? But that's what we're here for. We're looking forward to be back in the skies.
Great. Well, it's super to hear. It's very exciting. Delighted. And you, of course, you have previously worked at SAS and Finnair, so you have a vast airline experience across many airlines. Just interested in your opinion, how long it's going to take the industry to bounce back from this crisis?
We do believe that it is a multi-year return. Based on our own market research, and also especially we looked at the previous crises that has taken place, 9/11, global financial crisis, and of course all of these combined, this COVID crisis has been tremendously definitely bigger than any of the previous ones. But we do forecast that it's going to take up to 2023 before we're back to the previous 2019 levels. But we do believe that there can be 2021. We do see a quite healthy volume of leisure bookings continuously coming in for 2021. Because the fact is that as long as the crisis doesn't prolong more than now these few months, people do want to go on their holiday. Of course, many people have been impacted financially of this crisis, but we do believe that there will be a bounce back. It is the business traffic that we forecast is going to take longer. And also some of the business traffic will not necessarily return, at least for a foreseeable future. We've all been now used to working remote. We are much more accustomed to use the technology that we have working remote. So there will be, especially internal business traffic, so basically company internal traffic, and some of the conference traffic will take longer to bounce back. But we're actively monitoring it, but we believe that it's going to take 2-3 years before we're back to 2019.
Okay, thank you, Juha. Obviously, if you're more focused on the leisure travellers, if that's the demand, if that's where the demand is going to be, ancillaries, it does, and this is an ancillary conference, so we'll move on to talking a bit about ancillaries, but ancillaries are always going to count. And if ticket prices will have to fall to stimulate demand, costs are set to rise, obviously. What is it that Virgin will do to get ancillaries earning that much needed revenue uplift? Do you see, if there's less business traffic, do you see you focusing more on ancillaries than ever before?
I think the biggest growth opportunity that we have and what we're focusing on now, and I think the previous presentation by Plusgrade is a classical example, it is actually the upgrades, and people want to get the social distancing. And there are ways to do it on the aircraft, and we're of course happy to get passengers to the premium classes, both in our case upper class in business class or premium. So we do believe that there's more willingness to pay for that space. So we believe both in terms of hopefully getting more actual business class bookings, but if not, at least the upgrade ancillary revenue streams, we believe that will be increasing for foreseeable future. And also the fact that the load factors in many of the aircraft will be lower, which then enables us to also make those offers across our network. And then the second bit is that people want to have that distance also at the airports, and that's something that we actively are thinking of. Can we try to sell incremental services also using our airport services, being lounges, being our premium customer flow through the check-in process? People want that distance, at least for foreseeable future, and it's our job as an airline to provide that, and then people are most likely willing to pay a bit more for it as well.
That's fantastic. That brings me on to my next question, which is, I know you've always been a big advocate of better cooperation between airlines and airports, and in particular to create new revenue opportunities through digital channels. And will the COVID pandemic help drive that much needed cooperation?
I think the biggest challenge that we all face, and I think we are now actually forced to do something about it, it is the in-flight sales. All global airlines carry a lot of duty-free goods and other goods across the whole global network, which of course purely from a sustainability perspective is not optimal, but also from the fact that due to the COVID crisis, we of course want to minimize the items on board. That is the biggest opportunity for the airports and airlines to work together, that we actually really truly commit to tackle that. But how can airlines and airports work within the shopping experience side? Because there's absolutely no point of us carrying those goods across the globe if you could instead buy those goods with, of course, so we are very keen to work with all our airport partners, including, of course, Heathrow Airport here, which is our main home base. So looking forward to give a bit of a challenge to Chris Annett speaking later today. So how can we actually finally do this? Because we have technology on board, all our aircraft are Wi-Fi. Majority of airlines have that connectivity on board. And we have all our internal apps. There's absolutely no way that we, no excuse not to do it. And also from a sustainability perspective, I think now is the time to do it. And therefore, I see the shopping side of it being the biggest unique opportunity for all of us.
I think airports will also be very happy about that, because airports and airlines have been looking for ways of cooperating in that respect for years now.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that brings me to a question from the audience, actually. It's Kieran Venkatesh. He's the CEO of Front M. And the question is, with IATA suggesting up to 86% of passengers are very or somewhat concerned about flying following the pandemic, how do you see at Virgin technology reassuring passengers and getting them back into the air with confidence?
This is another area where the whole industry needs to come together, and I think that's what we're actively driving at APEX as well, at the association, to make sure that we truly look at the end-to-end customer experience. Because when we speak to our corporate customers and travel management companies at the moment during the past few weeks, the corporate travelers are not necessarily worried about the aircraft interior part. It is actually the whole experience. How do they make sure that they can feel safe and minimize the exposure throughout the whole end-to-end customer experience? And that includes the airports, that includes the aircraft, that includes even transportation to and from the airport and the hotels. So he's actually sharing information. We have at Virgin Atlantic just announced a few of the videos today just to highlight what we are doing on board to make sure that we minimize the risk. And aircraft air is probably one of the most cleanest air quality you can have. With the HEPA filters, it's up to 99.999% of all the bacteria and viruses are removed through that system. We have face masks. We will be providing face masks to all the passengers on board, and of course the general extra cleanliness that we're going to do across all phases. So what we need to do as an industry, to in a concise manner, and try to avoid that this becomes partially a competition. And I think that's what at least I hope, and that's probably more the European view, that this shouldn't become a competitive item. It is our job as an industry to convince the customers that it is safe to travel, and we need to make sure that the whole industry comes together, including the airports and other service providers. And then we are happy to be the one who then feeds a lot of that information, educational material to corporate travelers and the travel management companies. And technology, of course, is a key enabler of that as well.
Of course, that is the bottom line, after all, isn't it? Convincing the customer that everything is going to be okay. And I'm quite sure that Virgin and many other airlines will be fantastic at doing that. And you know, as we've all said, we've been here before, different, not as extreme, of course, with 9/11, but, you know, we've seen these times and managed to convince customers to fly once again. So it's fantastic. I also just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the technology, a bit more about the technology, because I've spoken to many technology providers who are using this time to enhance the technology that they're providing to airlines. You know, given that they, you know, many of their employees are furloughed, etc., but they have more time to they're not selling, so they have more time to focus on the technology. Have you seen anything recently, Juha, that's impressed you on the technology side?
I would say that actually, I would almost throw a challenge back now when we have a lot of technology providers in the audience as well. Actually, one piece which I haven't seen any concise way of any of technology providers giving us help is to actually forecast the customer trends and the consumer trends in this new environment. I give you revenue management, which is of course one of the core functions in any airline, to actually give us a technology support in forecasting the future customer trends in terms of when the demand is bouncing back, because the whole challenge with revenue management systems traditionally in our industry is that they're based on historical performance. And to be honest, that historical performance right now in short term is pretty irrelevant. So we'll be very keen to talk to any technology provider who's willing to basically summarize and suck in all the consumer trends that they see in a concise manner. Then an airline revenue management team can actually utilize that data, because now we all depended on gathering it from multiple sources. We all go to Google searches, we do all bits and pieces around the industry, but so far, and I'm happy to be wrong, but so far haven't seen any concise offer from any technology company that would assist airline revenue management teams to actually do a better forecasting for the sort of short and midterm. That would be a huge help, and I'm sure there's loads of airlines around this virtual room and also globally to keen to pick up on that.
Yeah, super. So to all you suppliers out there listening today, you know that you know where to go, you know where to find Juha with your ideas. Daniel, do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, Sinead. Yes, we do. Paul Alazik from LOT Polish Airlines asks, following on from Juha's last comment, is the digital transformation of the onboard sales the way to go in the post-pandemic times? And if so, will onboard connectivity be an essential part of the airline's plans going forward?
I strongly believe that it is, and also at Virgin Atlantic we have now all our aircraft enabled, so we have full connectivity on all our aircraft, and that is the best way to make sure that we can move unnecessary, both in terms of unnecessary weight, but also improve the service to customers, because there's no way that we can provide the wide selection of shopping, as an example, in the aircraft environment compared to what an airport facility can. So I think there's a huge opportunity to use the technology, use the connectivity on board, the portals. People have a lot of downtime on an aircraft. Any retail company would do anything to get that customer to their website during that aircraft downtime, when you don't have that necessarily that much to, not many other things to do during that time. So that 8 to 10 hour time that you're sitting on an aircraft is a huge opportunity, and I think there's still a lot of untapped opportunities for many of us, especially within retail.
Thank you very much, Juha. You've been great today. Thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. I'd like to pass the mic back to you, Ryan, to introduce the next segment of the webinar.
Thank you, Sinead.
Thank you very much indeed, Sinead. And a big thank you to Juha from all of us at FTE as well for providing some really valuable insights there. And it was very timely indeed with that announcement a short while ago that Virgin Atlantic will be resuming flights next month, which is great news. And a reminder to everybody joining us that we are broadcasting live, and all of you will receive a full recording of this event in the coming days. So we now head over to Ireland for our next pitch session from an exciting industry disruptor called Air Blackbox, who provide technology solutions that help industry stakeholders seamlessly connect their inventory across other airline and travel networks. And presenting today is their commercial solutions advisor, Patrick Edmond. So I would like to hand over now to Patrick.
Ryan, thank you very much indeed, and good morning, afternoon, or evening as appropriate. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm attempting to disrupt the slide advance controls and can't quite manage to do that, so we'll work on that bit. Air Black Box, very quickly, we have a vision of an easier path forward for travelers, especially connecting passengers. We have seen how self-connecting passengers and self-connecting itineraries have become more and more important over the last few years as low-cost carriers have taken more and more market share, and more passengers have discovered that they can save money and achieve more convenient connections by effectively rolling their own, by putting their own connections together. But that brings its own disadvantages in terms of risk, in terms of inconvenience, and as a result, we believe there's a better way. That's what we have been doing, that's our vision, and we've been working with a number of airlines and airports to make that happen. We've been around for a few years, but our goal, our vision is making travel as seamless and as painless as possible. We built the interline booking system for the Value Alliance, which is 6 airlines, 6 low-cost airlines across Southeast Asia, including Cebu Pacific. I'm delighted to see Cebu Pacific presenting later on today. We're also working with Flair, a low-cost carrier in Canada, and there are a number of other full-service carriers and indeed major airports that share our vision that we'll be going live with over the next couple of months. So what do? We build what I will call Interline 3.0. Let's think about how Interline has worked historically. Decades ago, the standard IATA Interline for connecting 2 flights together, that was pretty standard. We all, or many of us, grew up with that, but that doesn't fit with low-cost carriers. The LCC DNA, very understandably and very correctly, avoids all of this complexity associated with connections with interlines and the process complexity that goes with that. Not just LCCs, though. Some network carriers within alliances may be limited in what they can do in terms of interlines, because alliances may have limits on their members' ability to do formal interline agreements outside their alliance. So they may not be able to connect up the way they want. So there was perhaps a second generation of self-connecting and virtual interlining over the last few years. It's still fundamentally based on 2 separate bookings. The individual airlines don't have any visibility of the entire journey the passenger is making. If I'm booking one segment on one airline and then booking a completely different segment on another airline, I'm connecting from one to the other, but I'm the only one who knows what my whole journey is. The other big pain point for me in such a journey is if I'm checking bags, I have to check in my bag to the transit airport, pick it up again, go landside, check it in again, and go back through security, which is an inconvenience and a hassle and a source of pain for all parties concerned. So what we've essentially created is what we call managed interlines, 3rd generation of interline. This makes it really easy for airlines, any kind of airlines, network airlines or low-cost carriers, ticketed or ticketless. It makes it easy for them to cross-sell directly through their own channels, whether to consumers, to agents, to OTAs. We're not in the business of setting up new channels for airlines or competing with them. So we're not an OTA, we're a B2B player, and we enable airlines to sell very quickly and effectively this additional inventory through their own channels. What that means is that a network carrier and an LCC can quickly interline with each other. For example, if a network carrier has had to cut back on its network post-COVID, but nonetheless wants to still serve some part of the world, if an LCC wants to be able to feed and defeed traffic from a network carrier, this is now an easy way to do it. And even between network carriers, carriers can cross-sell seats and ancillaries very effectively on each other's flights. And we've designed this to be very, very quick to implement. There's no implementation fee. We make it as quick as possible and as easy as possible. And there's no onerous IT integration on the airline partner side or on the airport side. So the solution portfolio that we bring to our clients, the Air Connection Engine, our basic system for providing these managed interline connections, for creating these connections very easily between airlines, supporting all airline types and any kind of PSS. The ancillary cross-sell capability for airlines selling ancillaries, seats and other ancillaries on each other's metal. And critically, and a new one that we're very proud of, ThruBag, a through baggage check solution that enables passengers, even self-connecting passengers, to check their bags all the way through to their final destination. Goes without saying that all of what we built is NDC compliant, so it's very clearly future-proof. I'm not going to talk you through this entire diagram, but you can see the slides afterwards if it's of interest. But our air connection engine, ACE, sits between the airline systems, the PSSs, and the digital sales channels, including metasearch. So it creates the itineraries, it serves those up. It integrates with the PSSs rather than just doing screen scraping, and it works both with ticketed and ticketless airlines, as I've mentioned, but it aligns all the products and the ancillaries under the Selling Airlines brand. We find this very attractive to the full service carriers who are working with us now, because their brand integrity is very important to them. ThruBag, our latest product, is a patent pending technology for allowing passengers, even on separate PNRs, to check their bags all the way through. It's API based, it's very easy to integrate, it's a very attractive added value ancillary for airlines and indeed for airports. And we're seeing very great interest at the moment from a number of airports and airlines in integrating this into their flow. The way the ThruBag system works, it can integrate with the initial booking. It can integrate into a manage my booking, into a post-booking phase. And the outcome is that on the day of flight, the self-connecting passenger, even with two separate PNRs, is able to check their bag all the way through. And again, this uses existing processes. It doesn't require a change to processes or a change to systems. We make it as easy as possible. So that's a very quick overview of our vision. We're delighted that an increasing number of airlines and airports share that vision. And as they are planning their comeback from COVID-19, they see this as a way to add additional revenue and additional network reach as quickly as possible. We'd be delighted to discuss this with anybody else in the audience who'd like more information, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all today. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed, Patrick. Fantastic presentation. And we've got about 30 seconds again for a very quick question, Patrick. So a lot of information there about the product and how they work. I'm keen to get your thoughts on how big a demand there is among airlines and travelers for this type of product. I guess what I'm getting at is what's the size of the market, or the potential size of the market, do you think,
That's
when it comes to self-connecting?
And even before COVID-19, we've seen a series of forecasts suggesting that already up to 10% or more of passengers were actually self-connecting. We anticipate that that's going to go up an awful lot more post-COVID. That's going to be driven by airlines cutting back on their networks and not necessarily having the same conventional interline opportunities to get passengers from A to B, but also by the increasing rise of LCCs and the self-connecting, the managed interline opportunities, which that brings about. So what we're effectively building with ThruBags and with our managed interline offer is a new kind of synthetic interline, a third generation of interline that will drive that demand. And that is really of interest to the airlines and the airports we're talking to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much again, Patrick, and thanks to Air Black Box for being a part of today's event. So I'd now like to pass back over to Sinead for another live interview with one of the FTE Ancillary Advisory Board members. And our next speaker has stayed up very late to be a part of today's live event. Apple Ignacio is the Director of Ancillaries at Cebu Pacific Air, and she's based in the Philippines and joins us today to give us a take on the Asia market. So Sinead, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. Apple, you're a superstar. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Sinead. Nice to see you again.
Lovely to see you too. Thank you so much for joining us today. Apple, you once told me that you combine creativity with curiosity in your ancillary role. I'm interested to hear how you're adapting your department to ensure that the numbers stack up once the planes are back in the sky, which I believe they are already.
Yes, that's right. Oh, God, I remember telling you that last year. It felt like ages ago, to be honest. But I think it still holds true. It holds true now more than ever because we need to stay curious. We may have the same passengers, but they have different needs and they're behaving differently now. So we need to understand and quickly adapt to their to their changed needs and preferences, and creatively address those needs and preferences. The ancillaries team, the whole Cebu Pacific team, to be exact, is that we're using this the past months that we're not flying commercially, to look at and improve our back-end processes so that we can continue to operate more efficiently, but in a less costly manner. And on the front end, to provide flexible options to our passengers so that we can give them assurance and build their confidence to fly again with us. But lastly, I think this is my realization during this whole pandemic, is that, and I think it holds true for majority of the airlines and probably the LCCs, that the add-ons are really very heavily reliant on passenger numbers, on passenger volume. So if there's a takeaway for me from all of this, is that we need also to consider and probably explore other add-ons that wouldn't be too dependent on passenger numbers.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Any thoughts on what they might be as of yet?
I will stay up late and hear all the suppliers and find out and listen to other speakers as well.
Exactly. I know. It's good to see what everybody has to say, everybody's perspective. So I know that on Tuesday this week, you resumed domestic flights. And how has demand been for you?
Actually, day one for us was just yesterday, Wednesday. Yeah, June 3. I think we flew about 6 or 8 flights yesterday and today. I wish I could say the flights are full, but demand hasn't really picked up yet. I think we carried mostly returning residents. So these are the passengers who've been stranded since March, because the Philippine government issued the lockdown mid-March. And but I think what's encouraging is that when we posted our advisories on our wall, on our Facebook wall, is that people are commenting and asking when we are going to resume flights to the major cities, because the flights that we've operated yesterday and today are not really to the major hubs like Cebu or Davao, which are hubs next to Manila. And they're also asking when we'll resume international flights. So I guess once the local restrictions are lifted and the international borders open up, then we'll see the demand pick up.
Yes, I mean, I suppose that's a very good point, actually. You know, it's difficult if you only have a few flights to actually ascertain what the overall demand is. But once you get the entire, network back up and running, it's much easier to see. And just given that you're starting with the domestic market, is that a good market for ancillaries? Or do you rely more on the international passenger where ancillaries are concerned?
Okay, I would say that Cebu Pacific is a 70 domestic, 30% international airline. And volume, so definitely there's volume in domestic, but yield-wise, I mean, add-ons are priced higher on international routes, so revenue will definitely take a hit, okay? And it's been taking a hit already. But if you look at it on the per product, I think if you look at it granularly, core products like baggage, for example, I don't think it would matter really if it's a domestic or international flight, especially since we've imposed a stricter one-piece carry-on policy. So baggage would, I think, still pull for us, whether it's domestic or international. But what I see and what I find interesting and I see as an opportunity for us, probably not now when we're just flying domestic with max of an hour and a half flying time, but when we start resuming international flights and hopefully soon, is on the seats. Actually, I was listening to Plus Grade, and I think there's an opportunity there because passengers would still consider physical distancing in the cabin, and hopefully a potential for us would be an empty seat, because people might be paying for a premium just to guarantee that the seat beside them, that the seat next to them would be vacant.
Sure. Yeah, Yuha touched on that as well, actually, at Virgin, which brings me on to, there are a lot of discussions in airline head offices at the moment about onboard sales. And there have been a lot of questions, actually, from the audience, in particular from LOT and Spirit today. I just wanted to understand, the digital transformation of onboard sales, is that the way in post-pandemic time? And Is AI going to affect change in that area? Just interested to hear your view on that, Apple.
I think I wouldn't say it was an easy decision for us to stop buy on board service when we resumed our flights, but I'd say it's less difficult for us because we know that when we started envisioning what our flight would look like when we restart, we know that it's going to be contactless. And buy on board service, for example, is high contact, high interaction between cabin crew and passenger, plus the item of handling of cash. Okay, so our cabin services and in-flight teams are working because we acknowledge that there's opportunity lost for us when we stop selling. So we're working double time, and I think yes, digital means there are two considerations actually that I can think of: digital means and preferably in the cashless environment. In terms of AI, sorry, Sinead, in terms of AI, I think even pre-COVID, there are bits and pieces, there are elements of AI in how we do things and how we do in-flight sales. So like, for example, we look at data on on which products to load and how many or how much of them to load and on what particular flights. So I think post-COVID, or when it's the new normal, then there'll be a more build-up on that area.
Great. And do you see any, more, I suppose, interaction between you and the airports, with respect to the onboard sales? Is there something that you can do there with your top airports?
We're actually looking at, because we stopped selling pre-order, but for those who pre-order meals already, then we'll still serve them. So we're looking at ways and on how maybe hand out already the pre-ordered meals during boarding, for example. So these are still things that we are still looking into, and I think in terms of relationship with airport, with Manila, for example, it's the biggest airport. We're working with them, and we hope that we could collaborate with them on how we can do a better and serve better customer experience for our passengers.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Now, I know how innovative an airline you are, having spoken with you many times. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment which you would like to share with us?
Thank you, Sinead, for saying that. I think the team would be happy to hear that. Thank you. Before I answer your question, if is it okay if I just give context? I just do a backgrounder on before I answer that. Okay. We did something last year. We launched a product called Seb Flexi. Basically, it allows passengers to rebook twice for free, meaning no change penalties, for about 60% less than the change penalties. Personally, little did I know that for lack of a better term, that it will come in handy when we started canceling flights in March, and we started sensing the apprehension of the flying public to push through with their travel plans. We actually added Seb Flexi in all bookings for free, and we still continue to do that until September 30, just to give more flexible options to our passengers. Which leads me to the answer to your question. In the 2.5 months that we have not been flying commercial passenger flights, the team's revisiting policies and working on some projects that are actually centered on 3 things. Okay, the first being what I mentioned, flexible options. So I think what you can watch out for is that we're looking at more along the lines of Seb Flexi. So that's one. Second is a more deliberate push to going digital. So whether it be, as I've mentioned, whether it be on back-end processes, making, automation and all that. And on the front end, making, for example, check-in, mandatory online check-in. So it's really a more deliberate and more, I would say, push for digital assets. And third is centered on self-service. Because of limited face-to-face transaction, we'd want to give our passengers the ability to manage their own travel plans so as not also to overstretch our frontliners. And our digital folks would have my head if I don't mention it, that within the year, we are set to launch a better and more robust mobile app.
Super. Thank you so much, Apple. Thank you so much for your time. And I suppose you can go to bed now. And I'm going...
Sleepless nights.
Thank you. I'm going to pass back to Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinead, once again. And a big thank you to Apple. We really do appreciate you joining us live for that interview, especially with it being so late in your day. So thank you very much indeed. So we have another vendor pitch now, and this one comes from InFlight, powered by MovieBill, who have already done some really interesting work with cinema chains, and they believe they can do a lot of good in the air transport industry too by using augmented reality technology on board to improve the passenger experience and deliver new ancillary revenue opportunities. So shortly, you will hear from James Andrew Phelps, who is the company's founder and CEO. But before that, I would like to hand over to Joe Leader for a quick introduction.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Ryan. One of the issues that we've seen for our airlines as they're trying to maintain sales of their different items on board without the menu placards they're used to is there needs to be a solution straight away that is easy and fun for passengers to use. One of the great things about InFlight by MovieBill is how easily and quickly it integrates into existing airline applications so that passengers can not only go through a catalog through the airline's in-flight app, but also have a virtual experience with the product. So some of the things from duty free that we used to take for granted, like being able to touch the product or look at it in detail, needs to happen in a bit more virtual way on your phone, iPad, or computer. And that's one of the really great things that InFlight by MovieBill has done. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Andrew for a much more detailed introduction, but it's a great solution that I think all of our airlines will really enjoy. Andrew?
Hi, everybody. Good morning from Los Angeles, California. Very excited to be here, and thank you very much for your time. I'm Andrew Phelps. I'm the CEO and founder of MovieBill. Joe, thanks so much for that introduction and for having us today. My company has developed an augmented reality solution for touchless menus, safety cards, and magazines. Our solution addresses your passengers' concerns with the current COVID moment, but it also prepares your business for a future that is certainly 3D and artificially intelligent and augmented. Our history has been producing augmented reality for some of the biggest brands in the world. Our entertainment brand, MovieBill, is the exclusive provider of augmented reality to Regal Cinemas, the largest cinema chain in the United States with 15 million active moviegoers and app downloads. At MovieBill, we deliver extremely high quality, high touch augmented reality entertainment for the major studios like Disney or Paramount or Warner Brothers. And we've used this multi-year history and user data to develop our in-flight solution. So you'll see here on this slide, we are presenting an opportunity to bring your menus, magazines, and safety cards to the augmented reality space. The key here is our solution starts with your current designs. We're able to immediately deploy your assets into augmented reality space. The user simply scans an image marker on the tray table, or if you prefer, they can simply place the augmented reality experience in front of them. So how does it work? You're probably wondering. Our technology package is an SDK that is simply integrated directly into your mobile application. Your current content is then loaded into our SDK and then delivered directly to users. We can update your content or update your menus instantaneously. If there's a price change or content change, our backend system is very robust and can make those changes right away at any time. The solution, we believe, is something that can provide a level of comfort by reducing contact and touch points between staff and passengers. We believe we can really increase hygiene by getting rid of these multi-touch shareable objects that are in the seat back pocket. And frankly, it's more efficient. We can, reduce the cost of printing and shipping all of these physical materials and deploying them to all of your flights, while also dramatically reducing the weight load across every flight that you have. Really, we believe at MovieBill, as we're delivering things for the studios and for Regal, we're dealing with this in the cinema space as well. COVID is impacting everything. It's a big change, and even in the cinema business, we're talking about a new normal. However, we strongly believe that your brand experience does not have to be disposable. As passengers and especially frequent flyers return, you can greet them with an experience that is familiar to them, utilizing your current designs. Passengers can just jump on the app and scroll through menus that they're very familiar with. In our 4-year history of doing augmented reality with Regal Cinemas, we've learned that users engaging with AR have an increase in dwell times, click-through rates. This is not simply a PDF reader. It is very much the future of tactile browsing and exploration. Not only is it familiar, MovieBill is an extraordinary experience. We believe that you can retain your current brand commitments via Showcase View. There's no need to let any commitments that you have to alcohol partners or brand partners fall by the wayside. Just because you can't have a printed magazine or menu doesn't mean that you can't showcase those things. Not only retaining revenue, we believe that there is an opportunity to dramatically increase revenue. AR is a better way to experience things like duty-free shopping. As you can see in this slide, I personally am a big James Bond fan. If I was on a flight and I could try on an Omega watch in augmented reality, I'm very, very likely to do that. And again, AR gives us a way to manipulate and touch and experience products in a way that physical magazines and printed materials just never would and never will. As I said at the beginning, we want to help prepare you for the future. I don't know if you keep up with the news, but Apple is announcing their glass product in March of 2021. And our SDK will prepare you for this future of augmented reality that is inevitable. Not only can we do things with menus and safety cards and magazines, we can also create 3D games or training and operational manuals or things that help passengers have a better experience checking in. For example, as a frequent flyer myself, one of my biggest pet peeves is getting on a regional connection jet and not knowing if my carry-on luggage is going to fit in the overhead bin. With augmented reality, I could simply scan my luggage and it would tell me exactly will it or will it not fit. The product is available right now. It's ready for you. We've been working on it for many, many years in our cinema business, and we're very happy to bring this to you. Please shoot us an email at inflight@moviebill.com. We'll be rolling out the product this month with 0 startup fee pricing and a very low monthly fee per aircraft. We very much look forward to chatting with you more and would love to do a video demo. Please shoot us an email and look forward to meeting you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that presentation. Some fantastic products, and I would personally love to see those on board aircraft in the near future. So thanks a lot for sharing that. And Andrew shared the contact details on the final slide there. So a reminder to all of you that if you would like to contact any of the vendors who are presenting today, we'll make sure after the event that you have any details you need in order to follow up with them directly. So thank you once again, Andrew. So now let's head back over to Sinead, who is going to lead another exclusive interview with another of our FTE Ancillary Advisory Board members. So this time, Sinead will be speaking with Andrew Middleton, the Commercial Director at EasyJet. So over to you, Sinead.
Thank you, Ryan. It's outstanding, the calibre of airline people we have here today. Welcome to the broadcast, Andrew. You and the whole EasyJet team must be so excited about getting the planes back in the sky on June the 15th.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi Sinead, hi everyone online. We're an airline first and foremost. So we're itching to get back in the skies. We're really excited about doing so.
Will the changes in demand by customer segment impact ancillary revenue? This also ties in nicely with a question from Veronica at COPA. She's interested to hear what type of ancillary products would be best to implement during the crisis in order to increase revenues at a low cost of investment.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been struck by just listening to the previous speakers, Apple and Yuha as well, is how common the kind of themes are that we're looking at. And certainly when I think about the shifts in demand, where we've been trying to take our cues has been from some of the markets where they're probably slightly ahead of us in the COVID curve. So looking at Asia particularly, and they've certainly pointed to a number of shifts in demand that I think have ancillary impact, and that we are starting to see play through as demand recovers in Europe. The first is, I think we anticipate a shift to a younger demographic, and in terms of kind of the traditional ancillaries, I think there's a lower propensity historically from younger consumers, and so I think we're going to have to think a bit differently about what our core product set is if there's a big shift to a younger demographic. So think more experiential from an ancillary perspective. I think we're also seeing a shift towards later booking profiles. So actually that probably puts more emphasis on your point of sale and how you're retailing your ancillaries at point of sale versus post-booking. So I think that's certainly a shift that we need to be aware of. Trip type, I think also has an impact. So we're certainly seeing recovery, probably more so for gateways to the great outdoors, be that beach, mountain, or whatever. And so for things like car hire, so our partners at Cartrol are leading the way in terms of our demand recovery from an ancillary perspective. So I think we need to kind of recognize some of those sort of changes in demand. The final one, I think, and people have touched on it a bit, is that we anticipate there's certainly being a segment of traveller that will be more reluctant to travel, more nervous. And actually, there's still a role for ancillaries to play there. Now, whilst we might not have a premium cabin, there's certainly different steps along the customer journey where we offer, a premium upsell to customers that I think might help unlock some of that nervousness. So I'm thinking about things like our partnership with Signature Elite Lounges. So, if you want that premium lounge experience rather than going through the main airport terminal, then we can facilitate that. Otherwise, you've got fast track security. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with middle seats. And then the one I think I'm particularly curious about seeing how it evolves is whether we can monetize actually where we've got lower load factor. So is there more attractiveness around flights with lower load factor, and is there a way that we can help customers navigate to that if that's what they're interested in?
Yeah, Apple touched on that a little bit. That is really insightful, actually, Andrew, to hear that you've really taken a look at the customer of the future, or the post-COVID customer. Do you think that there'll be an increased interdependency between customer experience and ancillary revenue? People willing to pay for things in order to enhance their experience because of COVID that they wouldn't necessarily have been previously?
Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting one. I think definitely. I think there'll be segments that, as I say, are willing to pay for services to enhance their experience that they might not previously have been. I think the whole question of price sensitivity by segment as it relates to ancillaries is going to be really interesting to play through. To the previous question from Copa, I think in my experience, the lowest cost way to enhance your ancillary performance is through your pricing lever. Now, that doesn't always mean pricing up. It just means pricing more effectively. And so I think understanding the interplay between product, customer experience, and price, and how different segments interact with that, I think will be really interesting. And so now more than ever, I think one size won't fit all. And so being conscious of that and being responsive to that in an effective way when we're retailing, I think will be really important.
Yeah, the pricing of ancillaries has always been a bit of a tricky one. So, you know, how, I remember in my Ryanair days how to price certain products. So it looks like, you know, in order to maximize the revenue, but also so not to have a fall off in demand. So it will be very interesting to see, you know, how customers react to that going forward. So Juha, Sabu, Juha, Apple, I should say, and from Sabu and we spoke about the impact of in-flight retail earlier. I'm just interested to hear, it's a huge part of EasyJet and what EasyJet does. And I'm interested to hear what your thoughts on the increased shift to digital pre-order and implications on the product range, Andrew.
So I think both spoke about topics that I think are definitely very real for us. I think the one thing I would probably principally add is, so the way I think about retail is that our competitive battleground is with the airports. So when it comes to spend on F&B and on duty free, etc., you know, we're competing with the airports, and historically the airports had the first shot at securing the customer's spend. So I think the advent of pre-order from an in-flight perspective really helps us with that. That helps us leapfrog versus airport and gets us back in that prime position. But if I'm being totally honest, I don't think I've seen pre-order properly take off. You know, I think there are certain markets where it's more advanced, but I think there's still a long way to go in terms of integrating it within the kind of ongoing customer interactions that we have pre-flight, and then making that much more seamless from an experience perspective on board as well. So I think the theory is really clear, and I think I think there's more to do on the execution though. So I think COVID will help us accelerate that and help us invest more in accelerating that trend towards digital, both prior to flight and also in the cabin, because, you know, to the points made by Apple and you know, we will want to minimize contact. The discretionary spend on F&B is potentially, you know, under threat. So having a bit more certainty on that, which will help with loading, etc., as well, I think will be important.
I think it'll be driven, won't it, by the consumer behaviour as well. You know, in much the same way as consumer behaviour has changed overnight at the supermarkets. You know, across the world, really. It will be hopefully make it, as you say, accelerate what you plan to do. I'm going to be interviewing Chris Annette from Heathrow later, and I've touched on the subject briefly with Juha as well, but I'm just interested to hear your recommendations on how best to cooperate with the airports in order to get travel back on track. They are a huge part of this, of course.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is my perspective is that actually partnerships have really, you know, they've been properly tested through this crisis, and I think you know, both for good and for bad, kind of true colours come through moments like this, and we've had a lot of success working with our partnership portfolio, be that airports, be it ancillary partners, be it parts of our supply chain, or distribution partners. So I think it's really helped us cement strong relationships with our key partners, and so I've been really pleased with what that's looked like. From an airport perspective, clearly there's been a lot of focus on regulation, on biosecurity measures, on customer experience. I think that all works. I think it'd be remiss of me representing an LCC to say that cost doesn't have an impact. And so, we've been working with a number of airport partners on that as well, because I think we definitely think that there will be a job to do in order to stimulate demand. And so, taking a collaborative approach to reducing price for the consumer, I think will go a long way to helping accelerate the recovery.
Sure. So yeah, very, very important how to cooperate with the airports going forward. That is for sure, Andrew. Just wondering, Daniel, do we have any questions for Andrew from the audience?
Yeah, we certainly do. We have an anonymous one, which touches on, I think, the topic he was talking about before, which is asking about EasyJet's plan for technology in the cabin. There was talk about you rolling out IFE, and perhaps with what you said earlier about contactless in the cabin, is this changing your strategy about IFE and connectivity in the cabin, Andrew?
So we ran a trial of in-flight entertainment through consumers' own devices on a small subset of our fleet a couple of years ago now. It was really successful as a trial. I think the challenge that we faced in terms of implementation was that to get to scale with the fleet size that we had and the utilization of our aircraft that we had made it pretty difficult. So with kind of implementation timelines and the engineering inputs. So that kind of put a hold to our plans. We continue to review it. I think the context now with COVID obviously means that CapEx is under increased scrutiny, and so I think if we were to go down the route of major projects, then clearly we'd be wanting to work with partners that we're putting forward really compelling and strong business cases to support that. We'll continue to review the market. I think it changes so rapidly. So we maintain contact with different people in that part of the sector, and we are struck by how much the technology and the economics move on, and so we'll continue to watch that with interest. But there's kind of no plans at this stage.
Okay.
Understood.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm fascinated actually by the young travelers. I think I'd like to just finish on that point really, and just really understand, I suppose, how you're going to inspire at EasyJet the younger demographic to travel with you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So we've already started to try and experiment with it. So I think one of the things that so there's very few silver linings, but one of the things that COVID has allowed us to do is probably experiment more than we have historically done. And one of the things we experimented with was exactly that. How do we stimulate demand from that younger or more the sort of explorer type segment? And so what we did was launch an ancillary-led promotion, which again was a first for us, whereby we launched this promotion with all of our sports equipment and hold luggage for 99p. So it's all about being able to take your skis, your golf clubs, your rucksack, your tent on your trip, with a whole load of kind of inspiring content about the great outdoors. And it had fantastic pickup actually. So we're really pleased with the level of demand we were able to stimulate. And so whilst that was a small test, scratching the surface. I think it demonstrated the value of, to your point, Sinead, being customer-led, understanding what trends are in the market and how we can, and then thinking creatively about how we can, how we can tap into that. I think the thing Apple said, she said lots of very inspiring things, but the thing which struck me most is the point about curiosity, and I think it holds totally true for me. Being curious about what's happening with your customer base and how you can find ways to serve that, I think is totally key now more than ever. I've always been of the philosophy that we should be trying to curate a portfolio of products that customers want to buy from us, and that we price effectively, and drive growth through volume rather than value, rather than through price. I think that makes for a much more sustainable commercial model. And so being curious about the trends that are evolving in the market and how we can capitalize on that, I think is key.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Okay, we're going to get a progressive vendor perspective now from a key ancillary partner to EasyJet. I used to work very closely with this fabulous lady at Ryanair almost 10 years ago. Please welcome Aileen McCormack, who is now Chief Commercial Officer at Cartroller.
Hi, Sinead.
Hi, Aileen. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Oh, I can see you now. Fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
That's much better. So, how are things in Dublin?
Yeah, good. All obviously the same as everyone else, a little bit surreal. So trying to navigate through this strange world. But I think, from an Ireland and a Dublin perspective, I think we're doing quite well in terms of trying to fight off COVID-19 as best we can. We'll know this week if there's been a second wave. We eased restrictions over 2 weeks ago now. But yeah, it's good. It's a bit strange. The same with everyone else. So Cartrollers obviously has the same challenges with demand and travel demand being down. But we're still busy. Like we still have new partnerships and a lot of good initiatives with existing partners going. So yeah, it's as manic as always, but a little bit different. I'd be lying if I said I love remote working and I've adjusted to this great. I hate it. I prefer being in the office and being in person with people and traveling to meet people and, traveling to see our customers and our partners and our suppliers. But hopefully we'll be able to return to that soon.
Yeah, well, none of that surprises me, Aileen. I'm interested to understand the main focus for Cartroller for you in preparing for the bounce back that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. So Cartroller, we just went through a process. So like many other travel companies, you would have seen Expedia, Airbnb, everyone go through the same. We just reviewed our strategic options to make sure that, Cartroller continues to be profitable. And when we come out the other side of the bounce, we were an extremely profitable company up until COVID. So I'm sure you can imagine the challenges in terms of the volume of cancellations versus the trend of new bookings coming in. So we have a new strategic partner, a company called Towerbrook. They're a private equity company invested in us. So what that really does is it guarantees Cartroller, to continue that success for a very long time post COVID-19. So from a kind of business perspective, we're working with them and familiarizing them with Cartroller and our business and our people. But then what we're doing as a business with our partners and our suppliers and our customers is we introduced a project. It's called Operation V. And it's basically a company-wide project to prepare us for the bounce, which we can already see in different parts of the world. So we can see it in domestic US, we can see it in parts of Europe, we can see it in Australia. So we can see it with our Asian partners as well. So we're really looking at how we can basically we don't want to sit back when the bounce comes and let it past us. So we're working a lot with our partners to make sure that we can monetize that, whether it's through we're changing the messaging on our engine to make sure that people know which car rentals are sanitized, which suppliers are guaranteeing the health and safety standards. We're feeding into all of our partners where the pockets of recovery are so they can prepare their core business as well for the bounce. So we do a lot of that, providing insights to our partners. And we're doing a lot around kind of being bounce ready CRM campaigns. So where we see kind of green shoots coming in, we're looking at the campaigns we can run with our suppliers, with our mobility partners, and kind of, I would say as a business, we're doing a huge amount on the safety aspect as well. So we do a lot about, if you were a customer, what would you want to know to rent a car or to get into a transfer or to get a ride hailing product? So we're trying to message that as transparently as we can to the customer. But, you know, from our point of view, like for car rental, like the car rental searches, well, according to Google, in most markets are recovering faster than flights. I think people who would have typically gotten other modes of transports after their flight, whether they did get rail, whether they did get buses, now we're looking at car rental as an option. So I feel in this type of environment and for the months to come, car rental will probably be more relevant than it's ever been before. And I think that's because the user can, or the customer can control the environment. So there's a huge amount of work we're doing, and the whole company is focused on what we call Operation V. We actually launched that at the end of March, so we were quite early. We could see what was happening with demand. As coronavirus kind of broke out in Asia first, we kind of saw early what was about to come to all of our other main markets, so we were able to be a bit more prepared for it.
I think that's what makes you unique here today. You know, we're talking to individual airlines and businesses, but you cover such ground and you can see the trends, which of course helps you to be more ahead for when the bounce back happens in other markets.
Yeah.
And I mean, good news is always welcome, Aileen. And I know you mentioned earlier a focus on new partnerships. I'm just wondering, do you want to elaborate on any of those here today?
No. No, in fairness, we've had even through the pandemic, like it even says like a pandemic won't even hold car shoulder back is the way I like to look at it. So we've been signing new partnerships through COVID-19. We did a launch. We're building the Uber Rent brand. We've piloted that at the minute. We're launching that in Australia. So that's where consumers can go on to Uber and rent cars. And the over 1,200 car rental supplier brands that are available through our platform will now be available to Uber customers. What's unique about that is that the customers will be able to earn and burn their Uber credits of the car rental product, and then burn as well on across other of the, like you'll get a credit for renting a car that you can then burn against getting a ride. So it's quite a unique proposition. But that's very, very early days. And then we've signed with a few other kind of larger strategic partners, but they're due to go live post-COVID. So they haven't gone live as of yet. COVID has delayed a few of those. So we're as busy as ever, and then we're doing a lot of collaboration, or want to work with our partners and feeding in. We give a lot of market insights and intel to particularly our airline partners about what's going on in the market, where we're seeing demand, what the trend looks like. That is even helping some airlines make decisions about domestic routes. So like we can see a lot of domestic rentals happening. 75% of the car rental bookings at the minute are domestic, which is huge. When you go into the States, 95% of our bookings at the minute are domestic. So we're trying to pivot our business to service that as well, whereas we usually get a lot of on-airport bookings. So there is demand happening. It is growing. I personally feel that we're through the worst of it, I hope. I think we just have to adjust for this period of time, and everyone is adjusting. The one thing I'd say is, like, you know, airlines, travel companies, accommodation providers, hotels, everyone is doing the right thing. Like, I don't think there's anybody who's sitting back and thinking, I'm just going to wait for a vaccine before I make any changes. Like, everyone is behaving the right way to capture demand and for there to be a bounce. So I think as long as that continues, from my point of view, I feel that travel will recover very strongly, the same as it was before. I think the only thing that will basically make that happen quicker, so if you wanted to get back to pre-COVID levels, is a vaccine, which isn't too far of a stretch to believe now at the minute as well.
Okay, interesting. You spoke about the domestic market, and I'm just interested to hear how you're making sure that you're prepared for that trend.
Yes. So we work a lot with our suppliers as well. So we've close relationships with all of the main car rental suppliers. So we're feeding into them the insights and the demand to make sure that we have the product and the content available. And that's a big piece of it. And the other piece is making sure that we're able to market that through our partners' platform. So remember, the beauty about Car Trawler and why the Car Trawler model is so successful is that we're purely B2B. So we don't have a B2C brand, or if you go onto cartrawler.com, you can't rent a car. So what we want to do is make sure that we're feeding that into our airlines and to our OTA partners so that they know how to target customers to capture that demand. So like you may have a huge amount of, like we've seen demand in Spain where you have people in Madrid and who live in northern parts of Spain who are now vacationing or traveling down to the south of Spain. And some of them are flying and need rentals, or some of them are renting in city and then driving down to their accommodation. So it's a very different type of demand. So how you capture that demand needs to change in terms of how you message, how you target those customers, and even just educating customers and improving our own downtown product as well to make it easy for them to do that.
I think you just touched on something really important from an airline partnership perspective, that you are primarily only B2B. I think it's a very, very important point. Daniel, just wondering, are there any questions from the audience for Aileen to wrap up?
There's one about post-COVID. How do we see car rental? Is it more relevant than before or less? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm here to hear Aileen's point.
Well, like genuinely, I do think it is, like, car rental still continues to grow. So people always had this perception that car rental was in decline because of all the mobility companies, at the ride hailing companies. It's actually not. And you'll even see, and what I touched on earlier, these mobility companies are now introducing their own car rental platforms because it just still continues to grow. I do think for during the COVID period and post-COVID period, it is going to be more relevant. And I can see that by the amount of inbound queries we get as a business. So we've companies who are kind of either, thinking about, we're not reviewing our car rental strategy at the minute, or we're thinking about looking at car rental in 2021. Now on to us going, actually, let's pull the trigger on that. I think we need to get car rental rolled out because, consumers do want to be in that controlled environment. And I just think it's also changing the way that people are traveling and the average duration that they're taking. So like I can see the average rental duration is increasing. So people might now be going on, 4 or 5 mini trips a year. If they're going to travel, they might go on 2 or 3 longer trips, which means that they'll need a car rental for when they're going, or they'll want the option to have a car rental because they'll explore more basically when they're in destination. So I do think it will. I'm obviously going to say that, not that I'm biased, but my core belief says that it's going to be as relevant as ever.
Brilliant.
I agree with you, and the Uber story is really interesting. So congratulations on that. That's really exciting news.
Yeah, like it's something they're super excited about. We're super excited about, and we've big ambitions for the Uber Rent project. So
brilliant, wonderful. Thank you so much, Aileen. I know how busy you are. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so it's back to Ryan.
Thanks a lot, Sinead. An excellent set of interviews there. And thanks once again to Car Trawler for your really valuable support to today's virtual event. We really do appreciate your ongoing support. And we now have another dynamic pitch from a vendor who can really help to drive ancillary efforts in the airport phase of the travel experience. And that company is At Your Gate. And shortly, we're going to hear from their founder and CEO, PJ Mastracchio. But once again, we will have a short introduction from Apex and IFSA CEO, Dr. Joe Leader.
Ryan, thanks so much. One of my favorite airport experiences last year was using At Your Gate. I sat at New York's LaGuardia Airport and had a really first fun experience as I used the At Your Gate app for my very first time. Imagine opening an app and having your order brought to you in minutes by an At Your Gate team member. For me, it was a convenience. Now, for many travelers, it's a new necessity. Unfortunately, one of the negative effects of COVID-19 has been an unfortunate reduction in food and beverage availability on board. That's led to more passengers purchasing food and beverages in the airport, but with the need to maintain social distance. At Your Gate provides the perfect type of bridge solution to help our airports. But I also see At Your Gate potentially working more closely with airlines for ancillary revenue by providing food and beverage sales at the gate area before boarding. That's a hopeful idea, but it's an idea that I think will help both our airlines and caterers bridge a gap in service with COVID-19. With that introduction, as with my Apex and IFSA CEO hat on, please allow me to introduce you to At Your Gate founder and CEO, PJ Mastracchio. PJ?
Joe, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. As you said, At Your Gate is a mobile ordering and delivery app for passengers, airport employees, and flight crews. We currently operate in 10 airports. We are live in San Diego, Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, Boston, Minneapolis, Portland, San Jose, Ontario, and John Wayne. How does it work? Well, the At Your Gate process is extremely similar to the process you see street side, the ones we use every day, the Uber Eats and the Postmates. First, customer places an order within the app. They scroll through a number of restaurants and retailers that we make available to them. Once the order is placed, the order then goes directly to the concession operator. That concession operator begins to process and prepare that order. At the same time, a notification is sent to our brand ambassador in the airport. As you can see from these photos, they're in uniform. They're also side badged. Our brand ambassadors are dispatched to the concession to pick up that order. Once the order is picked up, the brand ambassador communicates with the customer that they're on their way. Once that delivery is made to either a gate or to a break room or to a jet bridge. This process has been done by us over 100,000 times. And I'm really proud to say we have a net promoter score of 75. So not only do we do it often, we do it really, really well. With post-COVID-19, we've seen a dynamic shift in our industry, and we've learned a lot over the last 60 to 90 days. And I'm very inspired by the words I'm hearing from other folks in our industry today. What we learned is that passengers and employees really are comfortable and feel safer with a delivery option by keeping them out of crowded areas in airports. We found that airport employees in particular take to At Your Gate more and more because they can keep their break in their break room and not wander around the airport around passengers. The other component of this is that we found that there's an element of joy in what we do. We're still able to kind of boost morale in the airport. Every time we make a delivery, the person on the other end of that delivery is smiling. We've also learned that passengers are going to come back to travel and they'll feel more comfortable by being in an airport that offers a delivery service. It's a pretty bold statement, but let me tell you why I can make that statement. We did some surveys with our travelers. We asked them first and foremost, would the ability or the availability of a shopping and dining and delivery service inside the airport make you feel more comfortable returning to travel? Well, 58% of those we surveyed, over 600 respondents, said yes, that would make me feel more comfortable. We also asked our travelers, what made you do this? What was the motivation behind this? Was having a delivery option available to you, did it give you a motivation to make that purchase? 54% of those people said yes. Sorry, a little technical difficulty. So what is it that we do? Well, for starters, we've driven over 1.2 million in incremental revenue for our airport partners to date, and that number is growing daily. We work with airports in a number of ways to help increase the ancillary revenue. First of all, when we return to travel, there'll be less concessions. Less concessions means less revenue. The At Your Gate app opens up the entire airport ecosystem to those restaurants and retailers that are still open and makes them available to everyone in the airport ecosystem, whether you're a traveler or an airport employee or a flight crew. With new regulations around social distancing in place now, we're helping airports keep passengers out of line and keep them from crowding break rooms. And again, keep them from crowding food courts, keeping employees in the break rooms. And so by enabling passengers to have a safer choice, we make that travel experience a little less encumbered. With our airline partners here, we're currently working with a number, and we're helping them drive penetration. First and foremost, the airports see a benefit to their employees and their flight crews in the immediate future right now by helping employees, again, stay in the break room, but still shop in the airport and drive revenue. And also keeping flight crews fed. There is no food on planes right now, and so flight crews are being forced to get off flights and wander around airports. Airlines have realized that, and they're allowing us to bring food directly to the jet bridge. And finally, to Dr. Joe Leader's point, let's bring snacks back to flights. Our airline partners are sitting on inventory of snack boxes and all these items that we eat on planes every day. Let us build an airline store with all those snacks in there. Let us deliver them to the traveler at the gate. Allow them to enjoy them on the plane. I'm really appreciative of everyone's time today. Dr. Leader will send out all of our information. My name is PJ Mastracchio. Email is pj@yourgate.com. And our website is www.atyourgate.com. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it.
PJ, thank you so much. I'll ask our team at FTE to make sure your information is up on screen. And also, as Ryan had said earlier, it's provided to everyone after the event and on the website. One of the final questions I have for you from an At Your Gate perspective, are you driving right now collaboration between airlines and airports? There's normally been a little bit of a tension there. And right now I'm seeing between airline and airport partners a lot more cooperation than previously.
We do see that, Joe, and we sit kind of in the middle. So for us, we relay a lot of information we hear from the airlines to the airports. We're also able to relay a lot of information we hear at the airports to the airlines. So we've acted kind of as a conduit, which for a company like ours is a really fascinating kind of turn of events. And so we feel we're being relied on. And quite frankly, we're being told a lot of information from the airlines to help us. So it's been a really interesting relationship. And I think you're dead on. The airlines and the airports seem to be working much closely together as we get travel back to going.
Perfect. And final question, PJ. You have such a strong presence in North America. Any plans to go global?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We're ready. We've proven the model out. It works here in the States, and we are 100% ready to go internationally. So that's our next step, and we're absolutely ready to take it.
Perfect. We really value you as an Apex member. Thank you for spending the time here with us today. Back to you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you very much, PJ and At Your Gate, for being a part of today's FTE Apex Ancillary virtual event. Another fantastic product. So next up, we are going to focus on the Americas and beyond, and I'm delighted to say that yet another member of the FTE Ancillary Advisory Board joins us live. We have with us Mariana Fonseca Medina, Managing Director Digital at American Airlines. So I will hand you over to our expert interviewer once again. Over to you, Sinead.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks very much. Hi, Mariana. How are you?
I'm doing well here in Dallas. How are you?
Wow, I love your background.
Thank you. I'm actually not working from home. We're at American Airlines headquarters. The directors have been here now for about a couple of weeks. Empty building, just the directors, but it's a beautiful place to be. So excited to be here. And I wanted to share one of our art pieces with all of you, which is just an engine that our Tulsa shop basically refurbished so that we could have here in headquarters.
Wow. So you have the office to yourselves. How super. But it must be a bit strange as well.
It is very strange. It feels a little bit like Zombieland, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure everybody will be back soon. Mariana, I know that you drive the strategy and delivery of American Airlines ancillary products. What is it that you now need to do to incentivize people, firstly, to travel, and secondly, to purchase your ancillary products?
Yeah, I think I'm going to repeat a lot of what people said, right, in the last few days, which is what really people need to travel is they need to be comfortable traveling. And the reality is a lot of people are still not very comfortable getting on a plane. So what we at American Airlines have done, as well as many other carriers around the world, is start with how do we get people comfortable that our planes are clean, that we're following the right procedures, that we're changing our standards so that we can minimize any potential threat. So of course, we rolled out an enhanced cleaning program. We've rolled out changes in the way we cap how many people can be on a flight or not. And we've communicated all of that to customers because the reality is a plane is a very clean environment. Particularly the air in the plane is very clean. It filters out every 3 to 4 minutes, but most people don't know this. They just see the plane for, being a small tube with a lot of people in it. So we spent a lot of our last month, again, revisiting all of those processes as well as communicating those to customers. But we won't be able to force customers to fly back. They're dying to. We survey our customers every week, and we know from the surveys that they're dying to go back and visit grandma and go see the nephew that was born and they haven't been able to visit, and spend time with their family on holidays. So for when people are ready, we are making sure that they have low fares available to them as well, so that they can come back and do all of those visits that they're dying to do, and communicate a lot of different offers and promotions. When they're ready, we'd be able to fly them. And for me, it's difficult to say this because, ancillary is the heart of what I do. But that is number one, is getting people to be comfortable with flying when they're ready. Now, after that, of course, there's changes to the ancillary proposition that are impacted by the way customers are traveling today. Obviously, paid seating is slightly different, right? You have less availability of seats, although more people wanting to buy those extra legroom seats. Baggage directly impacted by the amount of customers we're seeing. So that obviously drops in revenue. But the important part is that we get people comfortable with flying. If they do need to fly, that they feel that they're not at risk. And then we acknowledge the type of ancillaries or products that they're wanting to buy. And this is not unique to COVID, but we make the experience of buying those ancillaries and the experience of understanding the benefits they get from those ancillaries the best possible experience ever. We're not going to force people into an experience. We're just going to make it easier for them to acquire and purchase what they need. And we feel that with that, as well as being attuned to our customers' need, once the recovery period ramps up, we'll have our customers safely and loyal to us.
Fantastic. That's lovely to hear your approach, Mariana, to the bounce back. I mean, could we expect to see carriers adopting a different approach to the digital retailing and to introduce new business models across e-commerce?
Absolutely. I mean, COVID has accelerated a lot of the different technologies we are even using, right? I'll give you guys a quick example of a big win we saw. We all have a basic economy fare. It tends to be more restrictive. With flexibility being so prevalent in the market now, it has changed the proposition of basic economy. Now, because now all fares are flexible, we've had to, in the course of 2 or 3 weeks, implement a way for customers to self-service the change on a basic economy ticket, which normally we wouldn't need to do because, again, basic economy fares are not changeable, but we were able to pivot and move really quickly to deliver the right customer experience, which was an important focus for us on the digital space. So those are short-term things that we've identified as a result of COVID, but it just highlights the importance of identifying a need in the market for our customers and then pivoting quickly to what they need. I could anticipate, and not that we're looking into it, but the concept of flexibility and change fees is going to evolve over the next few months. Every airline is being asked to take a different approach and look at this. So the way we look at our digital products, the way we sell tickets and then add the stuff on top of the tickets, it's going to change significantly. So I do expect a lot of innovation in the next few months. I'm excited to see what comes out of the industry.
Fantastic. Should airlines start to make better use of big data and new technology-driven opportunities in order to provide the personalized offers, both pre-travel but also on board? And I suppose that is the fantastic thing about this, isn't it? It's accelerating all of these things that we've spent many years, probably the last 10 years, talking about.
Yeah, and I'll probably have a controversial answer to this. I think sometimes we try to do technology before strategy. We try to do a big investment in, say, data or platforms before we actually start testing what's really working for our customers. And the reality is that there's enough superficial data without having to go deep into, AI and complicated models that we can use to be relevant to our customers that we're not leveraging. So I think more than anything, what we'll see in the next few months is we'll see airlines be scrappy. just out of necessity, right? And we're used to it, so we're in a good position to be scrappy again. But we're going to see airlines be scrappy with a little bit of data that we have, and we're going to try to tailor those messages. And sometimes it might just be about the destinations that you're flying. It may not be this propensity model that tells me all about lookalikes and how I can target them. And then we're going to learn. We're going to see this message resonates, so that when we come out on the backside of it, we're really ready to receive the new technology, to invest in big data. Because the reality is, it'll be unlikely that we will have the bandwidth or honestly the opportunity to invest in those technologies in the next few months. So I think if we start small, which should have always been the approach, test into different scenarios, what works, what resonates with customers. In a few months, when we're ready to invest again, we will be able to adopt new technologies to accelerate the pace of what we're learning right now.
I love that. Airlines, scrappy. All airlines were born to be scrappy. You wouldn't be able to survive everything that we have survived to date in our lifetime alone without being scrappy. That's the only way to survive that, and plenty of innovation on the airline side. And it's wonderful to see the airlines leading the charge in this, Mariana. It really is. There is a question from the audience. It's from the COO of Plusgrade for you, Pramod Jan. He's asking, how should airlines be responding and reacting with regard to the middle seat issue?
Yeah, this is a pretty controversial topic. The reality is it's going to vary by airline, and it's going to vary by customer segment, right? If you are in a customer segment that's very leisure oriented, where you see a lot of group traveling, restricting middle seats may actually be not the best thing to do, because families may still want to be 3 to a row. However, if you are looking at more of a business market where customers are traveling individually and where they don't know anybody else on that plane, then having access to space might be the right thing to do. So we've seen a lot of innovation come out from different carriers. Some are taking a very hard stance, blocking every middle seat, even putting hard blocks, right, or restrictions on that middle seat, which obviously backfires in some cases, again, when people do want to sit together. And we've had people take the opposite approach, which is we will create spacing within the flight, but we may not be blocking that middle seat. Also, as you're shopping, you may not know whether a seat in the middle is blocked because it's blocked, or it's blocked because we're creating social distancing. So, airlines aren't as good sometimes as displaying the attributes or the different seats. It is really complicated to manage a seat map. I know it's one of our hairiest products. We have like 180 different seat maps here at American Airlines. So, handling that complexity, making sure that the customers understand what they are going to anticipate in the journey, for me is the number one priority. So the middle seat block is a secondary thing. It gets a lot of press, but for me, it's set the expectation with the customer. How full is your flight going to be? What options do you have? If you're comfortable being in a full flight, it's no issue for you. But if you're not, what flexibility am I going to give you to rebook you to an emptier flight, or to maybe let you fly on another date? And for us, we actually created flexibility. All tickets are changeable, but then on top of that, we've created dynamic rebooking products where we can actually let people move to emptier flights. So for me, that's a better outcome than just talking about the middle seat, because then you're letting the customers take control of the experience, which we all know is the number one thing they want out of flying, or that they feel they let go when they fly. Customers over and over tell us, I get on a plane and I lose all control. Or I get to the airport and I have no control over what's happening to my life, where I'm sitting, what I'm doing. So what we are trying to do is make sure customers have all of the information available, provide a lot more flexibility so that they can control the experience that they want to have.
Super, thank you. Now, I know we've only 2 more minutes left with you because I know how busy you are. So in closing, what key recommendations do you have for airlines, airports, and other stakeholders out there watching this on the best ways to cooperate at the moment for the bounce back?
Well, I would say for airlines, we should always be open to listening what's out there. It's really easy for us right now, and I can't speak for every airline, but I can speak for us. We are heads down trying to see how we can continue to provide the best customer service for our customers, and in my case, digitally, right? How do we make sure that the experience doesn't suffer as a result of everything we're going through? And we're heads down trying to solve that problem. Well, it's important for us to take a breather to talk to our partners and see how they're approaching some of the issues that we're facing. That's the beauty, I think, of the industry, is that there's a fantastic network. So whether it's joining a session like this and understanding what everybody else is doing, but we tend to like to solution on our own. I think this is around the time where we should be solutioning with everybody that we can to really make sure that we can keep the industry afloat, honestly. I think for airports and partners, airports are partners, give us some space too. So we are going through probably the biggest crisis the industry has faced. So I know a lot of the time partners are eager to help us, but we may be spending 3 days straight looking at what makes sense for our organization, even just the people that work for us, right? You guys seen the United News. They've announced 30% cuts. Every other domestic carrier, at least in the US, is going to face a similar fate. So sometimes the eagerness to help may be, shut down, not because we don't want the help, but because we are just busy figuring out how to keep the fire from, moving from the trash can to the kitchen. So, with that said, patience, understanding, but we need to, like I said, be scrappy, persevere, keep looking out for our customers. At the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, customers are dying to travel. I think Andrew mentioned that he was seeing a lot of young people travel. We're seeing that too. I mean, young people are coming back on this recovery much faster than any other group. People love to explore the world. People have family that they need to visit. People have medical needs that they need to take care of, and business will eventually come back too. So anything we can do together as an industry to make sure that we're back, so when our customers need us, we're there in the best way possible, I think that would be my advice. Just keep your eyes open and be willing to help out.
Fantastic, Mariana. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
And it's over to you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Sinead. And thank you so much, Mariana, for joining us for today's live virtual event. We really do appreciate you taking the time to be a part of today's webinar. And now we have another special vendor presentation. This one is live from the Middle East. And this presentation is slightly less ancillary centric, but it delivers a very pertinent message around the importance of collaborative decision making between stakeholders as they resume operations. And this can, of course, drive important efficiencies and cost savings, which is in many ways just as valuable as new sales right now. And this presentation comes from a company called Dubai Technology Partners, and I would like to hand over to their Managing Director, Abdul Razak Mikati. Over to you, Abdul.
Great, thank you very much for the introduction. Pleasure to be joining the team. And thank you for giving us the chance to pitch our knowledge and experience in this domain. So my name is Abdul Razak Mikati. I'm the managing director of a company called Dubai Technology Partners. We are based in Dubai, and we are a B2B vendor who is serving the aviation industry. Today, we are our DNA really is coming from the system integration approach. So it's all about cooperation and collaboration. And after a pandemic of the sort that we are going through, the importance of such collaboration and cooperation becomes very, very important. So what we have is we have done multiple products and services that we are currently serving to our industry. But we chose to specifically talk about a mobile app that we have designed lately and is being implemented at multiple airports. The purpose of having this app, obviously, is to improve collaboration, get the real-time information to the right content, to the right audience at the right time. which we hope will help improve the customer experience, the customer satisfaction, making passengers more happy to join and hopefully enjoy their experience at the airport, spend more, and therefore be part of this bringing back the industry to where it used to be. So this mobile app that we are speaking about is called TNXS Airport View. It's basically giving you a snapshot of the whole airport at the palm of your hand. It's basically having all the major KPIs that C-level look for in measuring how their airport is doing. It's built on a robust rule engine, where this rule engine can be able to segregate multiple users in multiple groups and be able to address messages to them at the right time in the right context, therefore reducing waste and giving accurate information at the right time. You can load SOPs, standard operating procedures, in order to follow it when needed. You can have direct messages between the stakeholders who are using the app, like similar to WhatsApp, for example, but more on a B2B approach using the app. Obviously, you will have all the relative flight information in real time to you in the same application. This application can be hosted on cloud, it can be on premise, it's a software as a service, so it's not a major CapEx, it can be subscription based, and therefore it has all the necessary flexibility to help an airport and airlines move in the right direction. If we talk today about this pandemic and the challenges that it's having, we thought about some major challenges that where our application can help address and resolve, hopefully. The three top challenges that we looked at are more, how can the application help in resolving or be proactive in terms of intervention, as I said earlier, in getting the right message to you at the right time. This is a major challenge when you're trying to go back. Your working is not as normal and you want to be able to share information in a very accurate way. So this is a challenge. The second challenge is obviously about social distancing and the new norm that today we are going to have at airports. How can the mobile app, the TNXS Airport View, support you in such monitoring of social distancing? And obviously, the third challenge is how, see issues that are happening around my terminal or on the apron, I be able to report it in the most efficient way. If we look at these three challenges and how the TNXS Airport View can support you, our mobile app is, as I said, built on a robust rule engine with an aviation data model, so it is specific to the industry. The administrator at the airport who is having the, to administrate the use of the application can create multiple channels, and using these channels, you can have users subscribe to these channels, as you can see on the screen, based on the severity of the alert that they want to see on their mobile. And therefore, when you create, for example, a COVID-19 health channel, you can now have all the right terminal operation managers or the right people who should suppose and get this information, subscribe to this channel and get the relative information. The beauty is about the app is, as long as the data is available, you can subscribe to the topic and you can get the notification, and it will help tremendously putting into context, getting the right message to the right audience. Moving on to the second challenge, the application is built in such a way where it can integrate with multiple APIs. And today, one of the challenges is to see the actual movement of people in the terminal and how the social distancing effect is taking place. And the mobile app is built in such a way where it can integrate with such sensors. Like, for example, here you are seeing one of the leading companies in terms of monitoring passenger flow called Exovis, and they were part of this, of this platform earlier. We integrate seamlessly with Exovis in existing airports where we are working today. And today, Exovis is developing the social distancing aspect, and we can take these alerts and show it in our mobile app. Furthermore, we can integrate with thermal cameras notifications, whereby airports today are monitoring passenger temperatures, and we can get the right alerts to the right people at the right time. The third challenge that I spoke about is more about capturing, issues as they happen, and with the mobile app and the camera in the mobile app. Now, any person who is using the mobile app in the terminal or on the apron, if they see abnormalities or any sort of things where action is needed, they can use the mobile app to take a picture, to write the right description, and to direct this to the right, at the right context, to the right. For example, if you have water dripping from an air condition, you can obviously do the right action and direct your message to the right audience. So the remedy of these problems can happen in a much faster and accurate way. At the end, why DTP? DTP, as I said, which stands for Dubai Technology Partner, is a company that's based in Dubai. We have been doing this for the last 16 years. In the aviation industry, our product and services have been serving more than 200 million passengers in the industry. Our leading airports are Dubai Airport, Abu Dhabi Airport, Sharjah Airport. Now we are moving into Saudi Arabia as well. We are moving into Turkey with Istanbul and Sabiha. So we are expanding in terms of geography. And now using this platform, we are hoping to reach to a wider audience where we can offer our product and services. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak, and looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you very much indeed, Abdul, and thanks again to Dubai Technology Partners. Another very pertinent solution that can quite clearly help the industry overcome the challenges that it currently faces. So thank you, Abdul.
Thank you.
And now we'll move straight on to our next live interview. And I'm very pleased to say that we can now hear from Chris Annett, who is Strategy, Regulation and Customer Director at Heathrow. So we've heard from a lot of airlines today. So Chris is with us to provide an all-important airport perspective. So I'll hand you over firstly to Sinead once again, who will lead this interview for us. Sinead.
Thank you, Ryan. Hi, Chris. Are you with us?
I am. Hopefully you can hear me.
Can hear you perfectly. That's fantastic.
Brilliant.
So we'll get right into the questions because you're our only airport here today, as Ryan pointed out. So it's really interesting and key to understand. Obviously, you play a crucial role in the bounce back. And I'm just very interested to hear what it is that you're prioritizing right now in order to get travel back on track.
Yeah, thank you. So at the moment, our priority is very much working with our airline partners and indeed with government. All are prioritising safety. So as anybody watching the news will know, the UK is still having a number of cases per day identified, and so the real priority from a government perspective is that if we reopen air travel, we don't start to re-import further cases from elsewhere. So there's a lot of work on safety, and something Juha said earlier really chimed with me around the importance, and we've been pushing very hard and working with our partners all around common standards. So if we end up in a big competition about who can have the best kind of safety standards, I think all that will do is drive real confusion across the world, and passengers won't be sure that it's safe to fly. So we've got a real big focus on safety, and alongside that then working with airlines that are still operating either on repatriation flights or those looking to restart operations to places across the globe that are safer and where COVID is more under control. The other thing we've been really focused on is supporting our airlines on cargo operations. So as people may not know, Heathrow is one of the UK's biggest ports for cargo, and we've been playing a key role in bringing in all of the medical equipment in particular that the country has needed whilst we've been going through this crisis.
Thank you for that, Chris. Now, Heathrow Airport already has experience with the e-commerce model through your boutique initiative. Do you see e-commerce becoming more prevalent in a post-COVID world?
Absolutely, yes. And again, as others have said, I think the COVID crisis has really changed consumer behaviour. You know, we see a lot in the press about how much online has grown, and even in sectors that traditionally didn't have a strong presence. And we expect that to continue as customers have got much more used to using it and much more comfortable. So we were already investing in developing our capability and building it out, and looking to start developing partnerships with airlines. So again, really welcome Juha's invitation stroke challenge earlier about working more closely with Virgin and all of the other airlines we have to really start bringing that to bear as we move forward.
And what about leveraging the airport apps in order to drive ancillaries? Are there some, is that being advanced more quickly than it might have been?
I don't know that I'd say it's being advanced more quickly. I think our focus for some time has been that through our app, through our website, and as far as we're possibly able to, through all of the people we partner with, through all of their digital channels, that we really prioritize providing great information for customers so that they know what they need to do and where they need to go as they travel, and then using that as a real way in to then provide information and sell all of our products and services. We don't think that's really going to change, but I think the big opportunity is for us to work much more closely with airlines in particular. And I was having a look through some of our airline partners who are operating some of the information that they're sending out, and it's great to see it becoming much more joined up, using consistent information and really starting to tell a consistent story. And I see that as a big opportunity for us as we go
customer
forward.
confidence first, and then ancillaries thereafter.
Yes, I think so. I mean, certainly from an airport perspective, obviously, well, certainly in the UK at the moment, pretty much all of our shops, bars, restaurants, and everything are all still closed in line with UK government advice. So at the moment, we have very few sort of, if you like, airport ancillary services running, other than sort of the transport options. So I appreciate it's probably a bigger focus for the airlines who are carrying passengers at the moment, but I think the trick really for all of us will be how we can work together and try and grow that market
as you know, I did ask Andrew the question, but I want to ask you the other way around. I'm just interested to hear Heathrow's key recommendations on how best to cooperate with airlines in order to get travel back on track.
Well, so I think, as I said at the start, in the immediate future, the real key and overarching priority is about safety and agreeing whatever new operational processes we'll need to maintain safety at the airport, both for passengers and actually for all of the colleagues that work at the airport. So I think that's our primary focus. But then absolutely, once we've done that, it's all about them working together to promote that it's safe to fly. And I think airports, airlines, but equally government, all of the local tourist boards, and the whole travel industry working together to be clear that actually not only is it safe to fly, but actually it's safe to travel and to enjoy all the things that people would have been able to do before. So I think that's a key starting point. But I think then, to the point that a number of other speakers have made today, then I think it's really to embrace the opportunities and actually some of the necessities that the COVID crisis is driving around contactless. So there are opportunities to automate and make things more efficient, which should reduce cost for everybody. And equally then to use the opportunity of onboard and things like that. I've talked before at conferences about how, I see that as a huge opportunity, and we've developed very much been focused on developing the platform and the capability, which I believe we pretty much now have. So, to hear Juha and others say, yes, there has to be an opportunity about how we partner to sell more products and help the airlines reduce their costs by taking product off flights. That's, I think it's great to hear. And what we now need to do is really prioritize actually making it happen.
Is there any correlation between, obviously, the work that you are doing on the safety side with the airlines as well? Is there any correlation between that and government restrictions, or is it government restrictions first, not taking into consideration what Heathrow and the airports might be doing, airlines might be doing, or does it have any impact at all?
I think governments right across the globe have been wrestling with the challenges that COVID has brought to all of them, and obviously are in very different places. Some countries now, as we've heard, starting to relax restrictions and travel, particularly domestically, starting to return. Other countries still sort of really struggling with it, and so inevitably, governments have been focused on the safety of the country as a whole, and air travel to a certain extent could be seen as potentially a problem in terms of bringing people in from other parts of the world where either there may be still health problems, or just bringing people who potentially have COVID into the country. So governments have been very focused on preventing reinfection and re-importing it. I think the role that industry has played, and actually I think it's been a great example of everyone working really closely together, has been to actually work really quickly to try to agree what a set of common standards could look like. So certainly at Heathrow we've been working very closely with many of the major airlines that fly from the airport, but equally with IATA, ACI, ICAO, all of the big industry bodies, to try and present a single view from an industry perspective. And my view is it's really been helping. And the concept, certainly in the UK government's talking a lot about the concept of air bridges and connecting countries where both COVID is well under control, and equally where there are good safety measures in place through the passenger journey. And that's something that has been very much something we've worked in partnership with others in industry and also with government to develop.
Okay, thank
so
you,
I think
Chris.
it's having a real impact.
So any questions from the audience, Daniel? I see we've got just a minute left.
Well, it's one from me, actually, if you don't mind, Sinead, because Chris and I have been talking for a long time about this airport-airline collaboration efforts, and Chris has actually, to his credit, worked very hard on trying to establish some of those and had some success with it. So, Chris, I was going to ask, perhaps, do you have some recommendations for our audience on the best ways of going about setting up these kind of new working relationships to drive new passenger spending opportunities?
I think one, again, people have talked about it. I mean, I've heard sort of Andrew talked about, the element of competition between airport and airline, and, others have talked about, different suppliers, different connections, and different commercial agreements. I think fundamentally all of this comes down to great collaboration, and it's been good to hear about, in lots of different ways, how people are collaborating with partners both across the industry, but equally with some of the suppliers that we've heard from today in terms of new technology and bringing innovation in. So I think for me, the most important thing is about being open-minded, flexible, but fundamentally looking at what the customer wants. Because if we focus on what the customer wants and then finding the right solutions for it, then hopefully we can find the way of making the commercials work that sit behind it.
Good. So I think that's it. Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Our final speaker, the final person that I'm interviewing. So it was great. Thank you so much. And it's back to Ryan.
Thank you very much, Sinead. And thanks once again, Chris, from all of us at FTE. We really do appreciate you taking the time to take part in today's event. And I really like those points around increased collaboration, something that we're always keen to promote here at Future Travel Experience. Now, I'm very excited to move on to our next segment, which will champion the capabilities of a series of companies that are members of the FTE Startup Hub. And for those of you who don't know about the FTE Startup Hub, this is an important initiative from FTE. And we're working with more than 320 specialist air transport startups and scale-ups based all around the world to help connect them with corporate organizations, including airlines and airports, who are looking for new ways to innovate. And for today's live virtual event, we've created a quick-fire platform for 4 of the members to share their capabilities with you. And up first, we have a company called Airfree, who will be represented by their VP for Airlines, William Henn. So let's hear from William now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Airfree is a French startup, and our mission is to digitalize in-flight shopping. Onboard sales have been in decline for some time now. Many airlines have eliminated them altogether, and those which maintain an in-flight shop offer a mostly analog experience. which is a shame considering that airlines have what retailers are paying billions to acquire, the customer. They have all the user information and touchpoints, branding, and an audience which is strapped to a seat for hours. It doesn't get any more captive than that. But instead of revenue, all that engagement is a cost center. With COVID-19, the need for digitalization accelerates. The traditional in-flight trolley with products is out. So are in-flight paper magazines, at least for now. And so is the ad revenue that came with them. Many passengers would prefer contactless payments and alternatives to seat delivery, and they would favor using their personal device over seatback screens. The shopping experience when you fly should be the same as when you are on the ground. There are two challenges to this. One is in-flight connectivity today. It is not good, and it is expensive. And two, airplanes have a very limited storage space for products. F3 is an in-flight e-commerce solution. It is white label. So what you see on your screen now is the in-flight version of the shop. We have developed this for our launch customer, Singapore Airlines, which, pandemic allowing, will debut next month on their A350 Telus-equipped fleet. Passengers access an unlimited product catalog on their own devices or seatback screens. They buy online while flying or pre-flight too, and they then collect their shopping at the airport, have it delivered home or in flight. You want to offer passengers a truly great shopping experience with a dynamic catalog with thousands of products, where passengers view these products, prices and offers based on their itinerary, with daily or even hourly updates and transactions in real time, and integrated with frequent flyer programs. This is only feasible with onboard hosting, which, to simplify, combines online and offline processes to optimize the consumption of satellite bandwidth. Onboard hosting requires integration with IFE systems, and we have agreements with the main IFE vendors in the market. The alternative to onboard hosting is whitelisting. In today's connected flight environment, whitelisting is literally 100 times slower and more expensive in terms of data use. All attempts to replicate the functionalities of our marketplace with whitelisting solutions have failed. On the other hand, we also have partnerships with the major retailers in more than 400 airports. These retailers can have an order ready for pickup at the airport just 1 hour after the order is made. And to recap, you could offer your passengers a novel e-commerce experience. This requires no investment on your side and generates an incremental revenue stream. If this sounds interesting, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William, for that presentation. Another fantastic presentation. I think William's there still for a quick question. Are you there, William?
Yes.
Hi there. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Thank you so much for telling us all about Air3. I've got a very quick question for you. I'm keen to find out what you do at Air3 to help to make passengers aware of the Air3 platform, or is it largely up to the airlines themselves to raise awareness of the fact that they're working with you?
It's customer acquisition is through the airline. F3 is a white label solution, so it's airline branded, and it's the airline that communicates the existence of the marketplace.
Okay, understood. And you mentioned the work that you're going to be doing with Singapore Airlines, so a big customer for you there. So are there already any learnings from the work that you've been doing with Singapore Airlines that you can apply to other projects?
Well, we're not live yet. Hopefully we will be live in next month.
And just from the conversations you've been having with the team at Singapore Airlines, has anything come up that's made you think you would like to adapt the platform anyhow?
Well, we've been working with Singapore Airlines for the past year or so. So there's been a lot of tweaks on the product side, and those have been reflected in the marketplace that we have currently.
Okay, fantastic. And as I say, it looks like a fantastic product, and certainly one that if I was flying, I would be very happy to use myself. So thank you so much for joining us to tell us all about Air3 today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Okay, and next up, we are going to head back over to Ireland to hear from a company called In-Flight Flix, another member of the FTE Startup Hub. And this company attended our first ever FTE Startup Hub live event back in 2018. So it's great that they're with us again today. And representing InFlightFlix is their CEO, Martin O'Regan. So let's hear from Martin.
Greetings from Shannon, Ireland, birthplace of duty-free shopping, aircraft leasing, and InFlightFlix. I'm Martin O'Regan, founder of InFlightFlix International. The problems we solve existed pre-COVID, but the challenges for airlines post-COVID makes our solution even more relevant and valuable as a source of competitive advantage for airlines in 2020 and beyond. InFlightFlix enables airlines to inspire travel and enhance the passenger experience at every step of the consumer journey via destination video guides, promoting 100 great experiences to enjoy per destination for airlines to use online, on board, and on social media. More importantly, we convert traditional destination content costs into a new source of ancillary revenue as we pay airlines $500 per plane per month. InFlightFlix has developed a tech platform which enables us to curate high-quality content in a globally consistent format aligned to each airline's brand, route network and passenger profile. InFlightFlix enables content distribution across all airline touchpoints, on the web, email and in-cabin through integration with their key tech partners. Video is proven to be the highest converting medium on the planet, and providing compelling content promoting great experiences to passengers at the right time when dreaming on social media will inspire them to consider your destinations and airline. When considering online, will convert them to book. When in transit, will enhance the passenger experience and loyalty to book again. And when flying home, will inspire them to dream and book another flight. We make it painless for airlines to showcase their destinations in short-form video content at no cost. We help airlines provide passengers with relevant content specifically for their trip, when and how they want to consume it. We provide airlines with a source of differentiation and a valuable new source of ancillary revenue right when they need it. Down the road, this will be expanded from content to a transactional-based booking capability. Our destination content is currently available on Aer Lingus Transatlantic in-flight entertainment. We recently signed contracts with Viasat as a channel partner, and through Viasat we have commenced discussions with a number of North American and Australian carriers. Last month, we agreed a pilot with Emirates. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for all listening to my presentation and leave you with this video showcasing some of our work. I hope it encourages you to connect with me after the event and inspires you to visit Ireland, ensuring both my professional and patriotic duties are covered in one move. We need all the help we can get right now. Stay safe and positive.
The Cliffs of Moher. One destination, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The iconic cliffs are Ireland's most beautiful natural attraction. 5 miles along the coast of Clare, reaching over 700 feet high. Majestic and awe-inspiring, this visitor experience creates incomparable memories. Open 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. for May, June, July and August. Book online for savings and confirmed entry. Early morning or late afternoon visits are recommended for a better experience.
Thank you very much, Martin, for that presentation. And I've got a quick question for you as well, Martin, just to find out a little bit more about InFlightFlix. I'm really keen to find out more about the personalization side of this, because what I think is great is how this content can be personalized to what an airline wants. So can you tell us a little bit more about how exactly you undertake that process of personalizing the content, making sure it's exactly what the airline wants and making sure that it resonates with their wider brand message?
Yeah, so when we create a destination video guide of 100 videos, we create it in 10 categories. And those 10 categories, in partnership with the airline, are decided based on each destination. So 5 of them are category profile videos, so 10 things to do for families, friends, couples, solo business travelers. And as a result of that, the airlines then can present that content online, on social, and in flight as well, by pulling our content via our API and delivering that content based on their passenger profiles. So we don't get any data, but we provide the content based on the passenger profiles. And we believe presenting, passenger profile based content to the right people at the right time will inspire more people to book and enhance that passenger experience.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you very much, Martin. And thanks a lot to InFlightFlix for being a part of today's event.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, and next up, we are going to hear from a company called Gordian Software, who are represented today by their Head of Business Development, Tsukasa Muto. Now, Tsukasa has recorded his presentation as it's very late in the day in Japan right now. So let's take a look at his video presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Tsukasa from Gordian Software. Today, I want to talk to you about upsell distribution in the post-COVID world and how you, as an airline, are leaving lots of money on the table. Since 2017, Gordian has been working with airlines to distribute their high-margin products on some of the largest travel companies in the world. Some you can see here. Why is this important? In the post-COVID world, it's critical to maximize revenue per passenger through upsells by rapidly responding to the changing needs. I'm sure you'll be doing this aggressively on your direct channel, but here's the thing. You'll still be leaving lots of money on the table. And why? The indirect channels. Whatever your direct channel strategy may be, the reality is that indirect channel still makes up about half of airlines traffic. However, there is minimal upsell on third-party platforms. The customers on these platforms want to buy your products like seats and priority boarding, but it's not accessible to them. Even something as basic as seats are not properly distributed on third parties. So imagine if you want to differentiate yourself and roll out something unique for the post-COVID era. This is nearly impossible. Well, until now. Gordian's solution is game-changing because we place our upsell plugin on third-party websites so you can distribute through any third parties, not only for your traditional products like seats, bags, Fair Families, and everything else, but also immediately distribute any new products or updates to your product. Not only do we power the sales of the product, but we also merchandise the product by providing accurate, up-to-date, rich content and information about it, as you can see here with Welling's seat map. This is a huge coordination problem for most third parties to manage. Imagine if you're an airline that wants to add a new product on the third-party platforms. How long would it take to get all your OTAs, TMCs, to GDS to accurately reflect the update you want to make? We were able to do this for Welling in a week. Any feature that you put on your direct channel, but don't on indirect, you're losing money every day. And this is no little money. By now working with Gordian, you're losing access to a huge amount of distribution. Again, Gordian works with some of the largest travel companies in the world. This allows us to offer you an immediate ROI. Typically, we see a 7-figure incremental upsell in the high margin revenue for airlines that work with us, thanks to the high attach rates of 10 to 20%. And getting onto the Gordian platform is very easy. We don't do any setup or fixed fee, and we don't ask airlines to do any technical work. We just need access to your API, we integrate that, and we launch you across our network. This is about 4 to 6 weeks end to end, and you immediately get your ROI. From a business case perspective, it's a very good deal. So to summarize, it's increasingly important to upsell with speed to market. And this continues to be difficult on indirect channels where there is massive untapped opportunity. Gordian provides a simple solution to access this opportunity and drive immediate ROI. And you only need to grant us your access to the API and we'll do the rest. So thank you for your time today. If you are interested in what Gordian is doing or have some questions, please reach us here at partner@gordiansoftware.com. Thanks for your time and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much to Gordian Software for that fantastic presentation. And last but certainly not least in this segment, we now have FrontM with us, who have kindly had their VP for Aviation, Ian Carruthers, record their presentation for us. After the video presentation, I believe we can join Ian's colleague Kunal Mittal live for a quick Q&A. But first of all, let's take a look at that video.
In the middle of April 2020, less than 250,000 people crossed security checkpoints in the States. Now, when you take into account 25% of those were staffers, this statistic is even grimmer. A year ago, it was over 2.1 million being processed. Now, as we look to recover from this unprecedented crisis, next slide, we all know commercial aviation will never be the same again, and the whole notion of passenger experience has morphed into connecting, engaging, and reassuring passengers to entice them and give them the confidence to fly again. At the same time, increasing the average $5 profit yielded from every passenger seat is now an increasingly important consideration. Next slide. This is where we come in. FrontM is a pioneer of delivering differentiated customer experience and collaboration solutions for airlines and airports, delivering content process automation, and contextual e-commerce right out of the box, delivered in most cases in less than 8 weeks and at zero cost. That's right, there's no CapEx required. Next slide. We connect with your passengers before, during, and after travel in a completely seamless, friction-free way, providing information, digitally hand-holding them from sofa or office desk all the way to destination. And in the air, in the cabin, with that captive audience. We even work when there's no Wi-Fi. Next slide. Okay, so we really appreciate your time today. We would love to tell you more. Appreciate any counsel, any feedback, and working with you to deliver ancillary revenue and a world-leading passenger experience is something that we'd love to be able to do.
Another fantastic presentation there, and we can now go live to Kunal Mittal for a quick question. Hi there, Kunal.
Hi there, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us. So a quick question for you, Kunal. There's a lot of talk at the moment about how apps and smartphones are going to be even more important now, especially when you consider that airlines and airports are pursuing a touchless passenger experience. So do you think this reliance on apps and smartphones is really going to accelerate now as the industry embraces a touch-free airport experience?
Absolutely. The Delta's airline CEO did talk about this even prior to COVID, how investments into their airline mobile applications is doubling or even quadrupling as people rely on apps in general to run their daily lives. So connectivity and the use of apps is certainly on the rise. I think is critical to an airline's revenue generation channels.
Fantastic, thanks, Kunal. And it's something we completely agree with. We've been talking to a lot of airports and airlines offline. We've been creating our own think tank project about what the future passenger experience will look like. And this is one of the key takeaways from that this app and smartphone based experience is really going to take off in the coming months. So thank you so much, Kunal, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next up, I'm pleased to announce we have a surprise interview for you with Nigel Fanning, the Group Head of Pricing and Revenue Management at Jetstar Airways. So as you would expect, Nigel has been up to his eyes helping to get Jetstar ready to take to the skies again. So he was only able to confirm his participation very recently. And considering the time difference between us here in the UK and Nigel over in Australia, my colleague Daniel Coleman jumped on a video call with him earlier on to secure this interview. So let's take a look at that video right now.
Nigel, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for the opportunity.
So how are things in Melbourne? What does the recovery look like at Jetstar Group, both domestically and internationally? And how do you feel like the Asia Pac market will bounce back?
Yeah, look, we're in a phase now of planning the restarting of the airline. We've had a minimum scheduled service operating in Australia and in Japan. But we're now looking at, as border restrictions are eased, we're looking at bringing the airline back up again. So it's quite exciting. It feels like starting a new airline from scratch, building demand. And trying to put the history behind us and look forward to bringing demand back and seeing how that unfolds over the next couple of months.
And do you think certain markets will bounce back faster in Asia Pac?
Yeah, I think it's all subject to whether restrictions are still there. So we still see heavy restrictions in Southeast Asia. There's not a lot of international demand where there's quarantine restrictions, for example. And international travel in and out of certain markets is pretty much not an option. But at least domestic Australia and domestic New Zealand are two markets where they have started to lift restrictions. They're not fully removed. In Australia, for example, we still have different states who have different border restrictions, for example. So some states are opening up and we're looking at mounting flying. But look, it's going to be a long and gradual process. It's not going to be a big bang. And we've also got a lot of aircraft and crew that we have to bring back. And so it'll be a slow, gradual process.
Understood. And obviously Jetstar has been famed for its low pricing. Are you confident you can keep ticket prices low off the back of this pandemic?
Absolutely. I think Alan Joyce, the CEO of the Qantas Group, has already been out spruiking some Jetstar fares as low as $19. So that's roughly about €12. So I think the low fares is not going to be a problem. I think a lot of people, and through surveys that we've done as well, and our market research, we've seen people are really interested and really keen to get back traveling, to visiting friends and family and getting back on holiday. So I don't think low fares will hold people back, but it will be interesting how the market returns, and that's something that we just have to navigate away, because people will be somewhat fearful, or at least a segment of the market will be somewhat fearful, and a level of reassurance that needs to be offered around the health and well-being of our crew and the general public as they travel through airports and on the aircraft as well.
Good stuff. And you talked about obviously been doing a lot of research there. I mean, what changes do you expect to see in customer behaviour segments post COVID-19? And do you think this will trigger a new ancillary approaches by Jetstar?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think how we had thought about markets beforehand, and even market segments and buying behaviours, we're really unsure about what's going to evolve and what's going to happen over the next couple of months. So I think one thing is we've got to be very agile. We've got to do a lot of test and learning, and we've got to rely on that feedback as things materialize. So it's look, it's going to be something that we just cannot sit here and guess. We can have hypotheses, we can have opinions, but it's not until we start to see intakes and demand starting to come back, and then we see how those products are performing. But we have started to think differently as well. We've thinking about, well, what's important, and we know things like flexibility is going to be important. So that's something that we're looking at offering today as a option where you can buy any fare, which will have a free changer attached to that. But we're also then looking at, well, offering more flexibility outside of some of the fare bundles that would otherwise offer, for example. So yeah, they are ways that we're going to have to tailor the product and the experience for sure.
Good stuff. And obviously you mentioned about customer confidence, and I'm sure there's a big focus on bringing that back there, and I guess reminding passengers about the wonders of travel, the positive aspects. And have you adapted your approach to sort of the inspiration and booking phase of travel to drive conversions and upsells in light of the pandemic?
Not just yet. I think it's probably it's a bit premature, I think, for us to be doing that. I think what we have done is launched over the last few weeks is in conjunction with the Qantas Group is a Fly Well, Fly Flex, which is giving people reassurances about the precautions that we are taking, and then we're also giving people the flexibility as well. So any ticket purchases that are purchased now until the end of June will have that flexibility associated with. So I think we're starting in sort of baby steps, and then I think what we have seen is our tourism partners definitely stepping up now. And where there are no restrictions, so intra-state, so intra-New South Wales, for example, or intra-Queensland, they've started campaigns, and even domestically in New Zealand as well. It's discover something new in New Zealand. So there's these campaigns that have been pushed out to encourage people where you cannot fly internationally for the moment, at least you can holiday domestically, and trying to stimulate that demand is sort of a once in a unusual opportunity to do that. So take advantage of it. So that's where we see our tourism partners probably playing a bigger role for the moment.
Understood. In the past, you and I have spoke about this industry perhaps still having plenty of scope to get some of the basics right in ancillary. But do you believe that this crisis is an opportunity for airlines to start making better use of big data and new technology-driven opportunities to provide more personal offers at every step of the journey? I remember when we spoke last year, you were looking at AI to perhaps drive some efficiencies and opportunities in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And if only we had made those investments last year and they had been fully realized by now, it would have been perfect in this sort of period of uncertainty. My God, would you love to have something like that and the capabilities? But what we've probably had to face as well, a sort of reality too, where we faced a very significant cut in capacity and curtailment in revenue, so we've had to sort of cut back on investments. So for the moment, we've paused a lot of our capital investments, and it will be sort of as the airline comes back and as sort of cash flow gets restored and as our balance sheet, I suppose, gets strengthened, we'll be able to start to reinvest. So for the moment, a lot of those investments are being just put on pause, and we'll look forward to the future, I suppose, of having those sort of capabilities. But yeah, definitely a firm believer in it. I think the business is as well. We've made significant strides in the past in many areas of our business. One of them is, for example, in robotics as well. That did help us out when we had a lot of refunds and credit refunds being processed.
Okay.
We had robotics being scaled up in the background, and they were cutting through hundreds of thousands of booking cancellations every day. So I think it's those types of investments that we've made definitely did pay off.
And we get a sense that perhaps the mobile device will become ever more important now going forward, and perhaps that brings ancillary opportunities along the way. Is that something you guys have looked at as well, about perhaps empowering the passenger more through mobile to control every aspect of their journey?
Definitely. We were in the process of redeveloping our app, and again, it's one of those things that have been put on hold for the time being. But one area is that we will maybe continue to invest or to reinvigorate is maybe what's required is sort of contactless check-in and contactless boarding and contactless payments as well. So I think there are probably 3 or 4 aspects where we'll probably continue to invest, at least in the short term, because there's a genuine requirement there, genuine demand in order to have that assurances as well. So yeah, look, mobile is still absolutely critical. And is ever growing channel for us, and putting the right experience as well on a smaller real estate is super important.
Good stuff. And maybe switching to the onboard experience. I mean, how do you see that evolving now? I remember you were working on bringing a new IFE platform online, and is that still on the way? And how are you planning to commercialize that? And perhaps what other changes do you see in the cabin happening now in terms of the Jetstar experience, and how that might impact commercial opportunities?
Yeah, look, the in-flight IFE is, again, one of the victims of the situation that we're in now. So we put a pause on a lot of the capital investments that we've been making. So we'll just have to wait and see over the next couple of months before we can maybe start to scale that program back up again. So, but in terms of the cabin, yeah, look, it is going to change. We've already made some changes. We've stopped the in-flight magazine, for example. That's an asset that we commercialized, and that was part of ancillary revenue. We'll have to sort of put a pause on that, and then whether or not the magazine comes back will be another sort of investment decision further down the track. We were lucky enough with the actual in-flight experience in terms of buy on board or pre-ordering and having contactless payments and credit for in-flight. So we were pretty well set up beforehand with those different assets to be able to facilitate, a quick and easy, convenient service. So we'll just have to wait and see how customer demand also changes. But in flight, yeah, look, it's going to change, and at least for the foreseeable future. And we'll look at, maintaining, at least restoring a lot of that sort of customer service that we had there beforehand.
Very good. And I mean, in closing, Nigel, what other key recommendations do you have for the airlines and airports and other stakeholders out there watching this now on the best ways to collaborate right now and optimize their commercial approach for the bounce back?
Yeah, look, there's this is the time when you know who your friends are, and it's a time when we do come together as an industry. And I think right across the globe, the main task is going to be getting people to be reassured and to get people back, considering travel by air and trying to take some of that angst away. So however we can do that, collaborating in terms of that customer experience, both from pre-departure and then in the airport as well, is going to be really important. And it's also important that we don't make it too difficult as well, and put in too many barriers or too many hurdles through the process. I recall after September the 11th, for example, when the security protocols seemed to change on a daily basis, we made it, exceptionally difficult, for travel, and became a really frustrating experience. Hopefully that this, can teach us some lessons, that we don't make it a really frustrating experience. We could make it, yes, we can offer reassurance, but we don't want to make it such a hard thing that it will turn people off from traveling as well. And then the other thing is probably around collaboration. Absolutely, collaboration in terms of stimulating demand, even sharing research and market insights, and all the other good ways that we can collaborate. It's about information sharing and working together through forums like this.
Yeah, here. No, totally agree with you. And I want to thank you so much for making time for us today, Nigel. And we really wish you the best with the recovery there. I think you're doing all the right things, and I'm sure we'll see good results. And I very much look forward to seeing you face to face at some point soon as well, hopefully.
Great. Likewise. I hope to see you soon, Daniel. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Nigel.
Thank you once again to Nigel Fanning for taking the time to give us that exclusive interview. We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, and all of the interviews and presentations have been jam-packed with really useful and insightful content. So as we come towards the closing section of today's virtual event, we do have some time for a wrap-up Q&A to consider some of the thoughts and opinions that we've heard from all of our speakers today. So I would like to invite Sinead Finn, Joe Leader and Daniel Coleman to join me for this closing segment. And Sinead, I'd like to start with you, because you've interviewed a number of industry experts during the course of today's virtual event, representing airlines and an airport, of course, with Chris at Heathrow. You've managed to find out a great deal about their plans in the ancillary space, and also generally how they plan to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So I'm keen to find out if there's anything that's really stood out for you today, any particular approaches or solutions that have really grabbed your attention.
Yes, Ryan. Well, up until today, I don't think I had a clear idea of how airlines really deep down were approaching this, and indeed car trawler, and indeed the airports as well. I'm so excited about the future. And I am so thrilled to be part of an industry which adapts so quickly. I've been so impressed today by the common themes and goals amongst everyone who participated. And I'm really confident that we're going to come out of this bigger and better. So yeah, I'm going to go home on a high today.
Thanks very much, Sinead. And I definitely share that sentiment, because I think when you look back at how things looked and how people were feeling a month or two ago, I feel like things have really started to change, and people are feeling far more positive about where we are and where we're heading. And Daniel, I'll come to you for the next question. And it builds on something Sinead mentioned just then about the adaptability of the industry. And I'd like to focus on suppliers specifically. And we speak a lot about how suppliers in the industry need to be agile, how they need to offer products and services that can solve the new challenges that this industry faces. And I'm keen to get your thoughts really on whether you saw evidence of that in today's presentations, particularly in the presentations from the vendors.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely, I did. I mean, I think obviously the plus grade presentation straight out the gate with the concept of travel again was like the perfect way to show that the vendors were adapting to this. And I guess for me, when I think about sort of key themes that have been raised today, I think the idea of flexibility for passengers through mobile devices is really key. And Apple at Cebu obviously talked about their key focus was on getting their app reimagined and better, because I think we all agree that the mobile device is going to be so important through the whole travel journey. So I think a lot of the solutions are around mobility, which is really important. Obviously, we had to talk about pre-order and delivery opportunities. We know this is something the industry should be focusing on, and obviously we had 2 great presentations tied to that. Obviously, the onboard touchless is a real problem with the menus and the magazines, and obviously there are solutions today talking about that. Obviously, personalization has never been more important. We've really got to make sure that all revenue opportunities are taken advantage of. So I thought we had some great solutions there from front end and others about how their solutions could help with that. So yeah, I thought it was great, and it was sort of reminded me that when we started FTE Ancillary about 3 years ago now, the focus was on, how do you use digital to increase new revenue opportunities at every point of the journey. We felt like mobile was a big sort of catalyst for that. And I think on the back of COVID, that this is even more so. And I just felt like, okay, we've kind of gone, perfect circle on that now. And the vendors that stepped up today, and I know others that are out there in the marketplace, have really listened to coming to airlines and airports with solutions for the challenges of today versus just hitting people up with the same solutions as before. So yeah, I thought there was great evidence of that. And like Sinead, I'm really encouraged about the future of this industry and the way that it seems to be collaborating better than ever now to return to a successful future.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. And I completely agree with that. Hats off to all of the vendors who pitched and presented their solutions today, because it really does go to show the level of innovation that's happening across the industry. And Joe, I'd like to come to you next, because I think it's fair to say that Apex has really led the way in terms of the advice and the recommendations that you've given to the industry since COVID-19 struck earlier this year. So building on everything that you've heard today about the innovation that's happening in the ancillary space, I wonder if you have any specific takeaways or any specific recommendations that you would like to highlight to our audience.
Brian, thank you. It's our honor at Apex and IFSA to serve the industry. Thank you so much for the incredible initiative that FT has taken in really advancing our industry more quickly through this series of virtual events. This one is one of my favorites because during the event, I had a member reach out to me and point to a quote from the think tank Download. He said his favorite quote of the document was something that I said, which was, "Customer care and compassion are the antidotes to fear." And that's one of the things I think we need to think about as we ramp back up across our industry. Apex predicted a faster return than what was typically predicted across the industry for the end of Q2. I'm happy to share with you that everything is tracking towards our model. We will end up at our checkpoint numbers on the high side from where we were. But most importantly for our airlines, they're taking the actions to give travelers confidence. And I'll give you a personal example. My wife is a medical doctor, was very tentative about us taking our first family vacation. We took it and it was so successful. She was so heartened by the airport, by the airline, by the car experience, and by one of our 2 hotel experiences that we just booked another trip last night. And so that's what I really hope for our entire world is getting people to try and feel safe traveling again, because from my personal experience, there's no place that's more safe than in a public setting than the airport and airline environment. They're going above and beyond, and all of these ancillary revenue solutions that are designed to ease the process to make the price points lower and the return on investment higher for airlines, they're perfect for this. And to speak to Car Trawler and what they talked about on rental cars, normally we're like an Uber or Lyft group. We got a rental car and we stuck with it, as they said, for a very long time. And that's going to be our new normal going forward. So they were a great partner to add. That was a great compliment.
Thank you so much, Joe. And I think that's a great note to wrap today's event up on. And I love that quote that you mentioned, that customer care and compassion are the antidotes to fear. And I think that's something that every airline, every airport, every organization should remember going forward. And we are just about out of time for today's live event, which has been brought to you jointly by FTE and Apex. But before we go, I would like to say a final thank you to all of the speakers who have participated in today's virtual event. Thanks to Sinead for doing all of those live interviews. Thanks a lot to Joe and to Daniel for helping to moderate proceedings today. And of course, thanks to our strategic partners, Plusgrade, Flightpath 3D and Car Trawler. And thanks, of course, to all of you for attending today's virtual event. We will be sharing a full recording of today's webinar, and we'll also share any other relevant materials with you as early as we can in the coming days. So please keep an eye out for that email. And this will be our last virtual event for a little while, but please do remember to mark your diaries for our physical events, which are scheduled to take place in the last quarter of this year. And those events are APEX Expo in San Diego from the 19th until the 22nd of October, FTEAPEX Asia Expo in Singapore from the 10th until the 11th of November, and Future Travel Experience Global in Las Vegas from the 7th until the 9th of December. So thanks again, take care, and I hope to see you at our next event.